across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon. Usually I've written a monologue ready for the start of the show, and I have got one here, but I need to update it because subsequent to me putting pen to paper, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, staged the most bizarre press conference at Downing Street that I think I've ever seen. There he was saying that he'd taken fully prepared for what's happening in the Middle East, has been preparing since January, that has taken every possible step to protect the people of Cyprus, the British citizens who live on Cyprus, particularly those, of course, at our 2 air bases there. No, he hasn't. That's just, I mean, you know, oh, it's gaslighting. He's not gaslighting. He's just lying. That's outrageous. Just lying. We know what's happening about Cyprus. Here's how he's not protecting Cyprus. HMS Dragon, or HMS Dragon, its feet, as we now call it, is still in Portsmouth Harbour. And probably won't be able to set sail for a week, at least a week. So it won't arrive there for a fortnight. So we are not protecting the people of Cyprus, the British citizens on Cyprus. The people who've been doing that for us were first the French warships, then Greek frigates. The Greek Navy came in to help us out, and currently it's the Spanish Navy. And he says he's prepared. Folks, this is not gaslighting. This is not political spin. This guy is standing there and lying to us. This is outrageous. And now I'll return to the monologue that I wrote earlier. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be your host for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get stuck in, get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000. Or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, March the 5th. Here's what's coming up. As I was just saying, HMS Dragon is dragging its feet and is still in Portsmouth Harbour and not expected to set sail for at least a week. Now, after the French and the Greeks, the Spanish Navy is protecting the British air bases in Cyprus. And Keir Starmer clearly doesn't know his backside from his elbow. We learned to our horror that it was a petulant and pacifist Red Ed Miliband who led cabinet demands for Starmer to ban America from using UK bases to launch strikes on Iran. Rachel Reeves, Yvette Cooper and, quotes, hard as nails, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood ordering the Prime Minister to turn Trump down and wreck the special relationship in the process. Is this country being governed by a bunch of throwback, superannuated student revolutionaries without a clue? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, pushed around by his USA-hating ministers and his far-left backbench MPs, international law obsessive Starmer continues to delude himself that his job is legal advisor to the nation, and the Middle East erupts into a full-scale war that Britain was not remotely prepared for, even though everyone knew it was coming. What kind of an excuse for a government is this? Is it just me, or is our dear leader's shocking incompetence and his fixation on the Muslim vote a danger to this country? 0344 499 1000. In other news, as Shabana Mahmood tried desperately to persuade her party to back a tough crackdown, hundreds more migrants crossed the channel illegally. They're coming across now, folks. Hundreds of them. Hundreds yesterday. They think about 300 today. About 250 yesterday, 300 today. And she's going, no, crackdown, crackdown. She's been going on about it since December. Not deterring anyone, is it? Now the alleged hard-as-nails Home Secretary wants to offer foreigners who broke into Britain unlawfully as much as 40 grand, £40,000 to return to their home country. I've got an idea. Why not just kick them out for free? 03444991000. And while Shabs is of course right that convicted criminals should be ejected from taxpayer-funded asylum seeker hotels, why were they in them in the first place? 03444991000. Plus, with the world on the edge of global conflict, full analysis and the best guests throughout the show. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday afternoon together. And without further ado, let's go over to my first guest. He is the leader of Advance UK, Ben Habib. Welcome, Ben.
Good afternoon, Kevin.
Well, Ben, we have to talk about this extraordinary press conference, or it was an address to the nation, looking very statesman-like, our dear leader, Sir Keir Starmer. Don't laugh, he was, he really was. Furrow-browed, full of the importance of the situation. And he just lied to us. He just lied to us. Let's just have a look at him lying through his teeth.
Is protecting our people. And that's why, long before the US and Israeli action last weekend, we had already deployed additional military capabilities to the region to defend our interests. And I want to pay tribute to our brilliant armed forces. Throughout January and February, we were moving defensive assets to Cyprus and Qatar. Fighter jets, air defence missiles, advanced radar and systems to take down drones, to ensure we were in a heightened state of readiness in advance of any conflict beginning. When the strikes began on Saturday, we immediately put those jets into the sky on a mission to protect our people and our allies in the
Ben, what on earth is he talking about, particularly in terms of Cyprus? You know, we have a ship, HMS Dragon, renamed HMS Dragon Its Feet, in Portsmouth Harbour that's supposed to be going to Cyprus to protect British people, British citizens, but also specifically our two air bases on that island, on that Mediterranean island. That wasn't deployed until 2 days ago. It apparently won't be ready to leave until next week because yesterday at least its funnel was covered in scaffolding, so it's hardly ready. And we know what's been happening all this week. As of around about Sunday, our people, our citizens, our air bases in Cyprus were being protected by the French Navy, and then the French got a break, and then came the Greek Navy, and currently our people, our British people in Cyprus, our air bases are being protected by the Spanish Navy. So what is he talking about, that he took steps to protect British citizens and our air bases in Cyprus? He's just lying. It's not gaslighting, he's lying.
He's lying, but what he's revealing, I think, is the complete ineptitude of our political leaders. And I'm afraid to say, as much as I wouldn't want to criticise them, our armed forces now, as a result of the way that they've been managed, are a shadow of their former selves. I mean, I remember in Gulf One, and I'm sure you remember it, Kevin, going back to 1991, when hostilities commenced, there was great pride in the British contribution to those hostilities. Our Tornado jets were part of all of it. They did the low-flying bombing raids, stuff that the Americans couldn't do back then. And now we find ourselves even incapable of getting a ship to sail out in time to meet the needs of our people in Cyprus. We can't even get it to sail out in time. And at the same time, we have the stark comparison of an American submarine taking out an Iranian destroyer in the Indian Ocean. Yeah. You know, they have become so competent. They've kept their competencies. They've deployed muscle where they need to deploy muscle. Trump is making America great again. And people will be concerned about challenging America internationally. But when they look at the United Kingdom, all they see is a complete basket case of a country.
Yeah.
And he talks about the debate they had about using British bases as if they were discussing a commitment of our armed forces. They weren't even discussing a commitment by the British armed forces. They were discussing whether or not we let the Americans use our bases. It's a pretty low-level commitment to have to make to your allies.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. And that speech he made, I'll play another little clip in a second. That, you know what that smacks of, and I think I'm exactly right. They have listened in Downing Street. They have listened to this deluge of horror from the British people, saying, "What? You haven't done anything. You know, Cyprus is being defended by the French." And they've written this out. They've come up with a load of old baloney to make it look as if they've been preparing since January. The only thing that's happened since January is last Friday they had a National Security Council meeting at which all of these hippies, these superannuated student revolutionaries that are now our cabinet ministers, Red Ed Miliband leading the charge, Yvette Cooper, the world's most ineffectual foreign secretary, Shabana Mahmood, who's supposed to be the right-wing of the Labour Party, is she hell? All of them saying, you can't let Donald Trump use our air bases. You know, he is being... this country is now being governed by Ed Miliband, who tells the Prime Minister what he has to do, because Ed Miliband is the most popular cabinet minister in the Labour ranks, and if Ed Miliband denounces Starmer, Starmer's finished, and he knows that. So we are now being governed, A, by these left-wing lunatic cabinet ministers, and worse still, the far left extreme lunatic Labour backbenchers. That two-pronged tail is wagging the Starmer dog, isn't it?
It's absurd, and so far have we fallen that the American president didn't even warn us that action was about to commence. He told the Polish government, because he's probably got some respect still for the Pole, but he didn't tell us. And he's been rightly calling Starmer a loser. When he's referring to him.
Yeah, I've got some other names for him, but certainly loser will do. I mean,
what's the message? But what's the message we're sending the world, Kevin? We're sending a message that the United Kingdom is incompetent, isn't prepared to stand its ground. When it needs to rise to the task, it's incapable of rising to the task. We're putting a come and attack us sign on our foreheads. And actually, whatever Starmer and his, as you say, political third-year students or whatever they are, calling themselves the cabinet, whatever they might think, this is a necessary action. This is not like Iraq. This is not like the Arab Spring. This is a country which has caused significant turmoil in the Middle East for the last 50 years, 47 years, ever since it came to power in 1979. It sponsors Hamas, sponsors the Houthis, sponsors Hezbollah. It's forever undermining other governments in the Middle East. If it developed a nuclear weapon, it wouldn't hesitate to use it against us, if it saw advantage in it. This is a government that needs to be neutered. And this is never going to be a boots on the ground kind of war. This is going to be an aerial war. We should have committed to it.
Yeah. I've never felt less led by a government in my long life. I really haven't. This lot are just a shambles. They have no idea what they're doing. It's extraordinary. It's all very well for them to signal their virtue. Oh, America can't use our air bases only for defensive purposes. We are not involved in this strike on Iran. They're signalling their virtue, polishing their halos, but they've got to get real. It doesn't matter whether or not they want to show off about being pacifists. What is happening, and our government is not responding to the reality of an all-out conflict in the Middle East.
And just two things to add to that. The first is, he's been talking about the wave of Iranian refugees which may turn up on our doorstep. There will be no Iranian refugees coming to the United Kingdom out of this action. They won't have the ability to leave Iran. They're stuck there. This is not going to be the kind of war which displaces people. It simply isn't. So that's a complete lie. And then the other thing, I'm sure your viewers have seen it, or perhaps most of them have seen it if all of them haven't, was him addressing an iftar party in the Great Hall of Westminster, making a virtue out of the fact that he wasn't bombing Iran. pandering effectively to militant Islam. That's what he's doing, this guy.
As Donald Trump said, Ben, in an interview with The Sun the other day, British foreign policy is being dictated by Keir Starmer's craven obsession with pursuing the Muslim vote. He does not want to come down too hard on Iran, because let's face it, a lot of our Muslim citizens support Iran against America. So that is his stance. He is making a big thing of, we're not involved in this. Well, fine, but we don't seem to be responding to the reality of what's going on.
Isn't it a very sad day, Kevin, when the government's making foreign policy not based on British national interest, but for fear of upsetting a community in the UK?
Damn right it is, Ben. Listen, let me play you another clip from Keir Starmer's extraordinary address to the nation.
Faced with this new geopolitical crisis, the sad fact is that some will try to use it to divide us. That's why the government is reaching out to communities across the United Kingdom, Jewish and Muslim alike, making sure that communities and places of worship have appropriate protective security in place. But look, as a nation, we should come together in this moment.
What's he talking about? What on earth is he talking about?
It's another admission that multiculturalism doesn't work, because he's fearful that the tension between Muslims and Jews in the Middle East is now going to play out in the United Kingdom, because we've had mass immigration of people who basically don't like our country and don't like our values and would stand up against us. It's precisely what we were just discussing. He's taking the knee to militant Islam. And we've got to be brave. He's got to be brave. If there are elements in this country now, as I'm sure there are, 100% there are, who would hold us in contempt if we did what was right for this country, then we'd better stand up to them sooner rather than later. Let them come out, let them show themselves, let us deal with them. They should not be in this country if that's how they view British interests. Yeah. And the Prime Minister is pandering to it. And when you pander to threats, when you go down this pacifist route, you invite invasion. The only way to prevent yourself from being attacked is actually to show the world that you are capable, ready and prepared to repel any action.
Exactly right. The best way to pursue peace is to be ready for war. And we aren't ready for damn well anything. It's extraordinary. He went on to sort of drone on about how sustainable green energy was now, propping up this country. It was a brilliant thing. It's just all lies, all lies. I mean, sustainable green energy has delivered to us the highest energy prices in the entire world. I am so sick of this guy and his gormless government lying to us. It's getting to be a sickness with them, isn't it?
The only sustainable energy, only reliable sustainable energy is fossil fuels. Renewables, by definition, wouldn't even be able to do anything if it wasn't for government grants. The whole thing is a lie. They're ideologically driven, they're not practically driven, and they don't love this country.
Yeah,
I'm afraid.
Exactly right. But Ben, listen, I could talk to you all night, but we've got to go. But really good to have you on the show. Ben Habib, there, leader of the Advance UK Party. Next up, we are going to deal with this story. All the allies, while that strange little man is standing behind the lectern in Downing Street going, we're prepared, protecting the people of Cyprus and net zero, brilliant. Shut up! Our allies in the Middle East, Bahrain, Iran, not Iran, but Bahrain, the UAE, Cyprus, are all saying Keir Starmer has let us down. So we'll talk to former Conservative MP and military expert Bob Seeley about that next. Stick around.
The Green Party have won the Denton and Gorton by-election. Labour in third place.
Breaking news that Peter Mandelson has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt.
What would Andrew Loney tell them to do?
To come clean, be honest. And if Charles is complicit in this cover-up, which I believe he is, then I think he has to fall on his sword.
When you define sex, or gender or sex, what you mean is biological sex, and that's a man or woman, what you are physically, not what you think you are on a Wednesday afternoon.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's take a voice note. This is Lee on our Supreme Leader, Keir Starmer.
Lee, in his van, from Scarborough, veteran. When is somebody going to call Starmer out for the outright lies and lies and lies? I thought these MPs, £100,000 a year, why don't they start doing their job? Get this buffoon out now.
Honestly, I think we're reaching peak crisis with Starmer's incompetence, his hopelessness. As I said in my monologue, he seems to think his job is legal advisor to the nation. No, make some decisions, mate, and prepare. Everybody knew what was coming in the Middle East, and you did nothing. Stop pretending that you did anything. We've sort of deployed planes and defence, defending the people of Cyprus. The Spanish are doing it. Before that, the Greeks. Before that, the French, not the British. Stop pretending you prepared for this, Starmer, because you didn't. And we see you. We see you. Breaking news, Donald Trump has said he wants a personal involvement in selecting the next Iranian leader. I guess he's going to have to wait until that regime falls, because don't forget, it's still intact. Haven't they appointed Khamenei's son to be, it's like sort of anointing the son to be the next Ayatollah. So, yes, I'm sure Donald will have personal involvement, but you've got to win that war first, and you haven't done that yet, Donald. Let's go to the phone, shall we? Let's go to Colin in North Yorkshire. Hi, Colin.
Oh, hi, Kevin. Hi. Good to speak to you again. I think we got cut off after our brief conversation.
Oh, did we? Yeah, okay. Okay,
yeah,
good to have you on board.
So my point is actually to bring some simplicity to this situation. It's just binary. If Iran get access to a full-blown nuclear capability, that's it. It's the end of the world. It's over. This is a theocratic death cult.
Oh, God. Yeah, they're awful. They're awful. Right? You're right, Colin. Sorry to interrupt.
And as soon as they get... Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the word is, I mean, people go, oh, why? He didn't have to do this. Donald Trump but Netanyahu didn't have to do it. Why have they done it now? Well, the word is, these negotiations that J.D. Vance has been presiding over with Iran. Well, apparently in those negotiations, I don't know the veracity of this story, but the word is that the Iranians inadvertently let slip that within 2 weeks, they would have nuclear weapons, nuclear capability.
Correct. That was exactly the point I was about to make, because I heard that in the early stages of the negotiation, they disclosed the fact that they already had several tens of tons of enriched uranium, and I don't think it was 2 weeks, but in a few weeks they would have the ability.
Very soon, and that's why America and Israel decided to strike. Now, my point is that there are factors that we don't know about. So, I don't believe. I mean, I'm not. I accept that it may be that Donald and Netanyahu haven't done much planning for what might happen when Iran or the Ayatollah's regime falls, but that's just one of those things. A lot of wars start when people don't know what's going to happen. But if it's true that the Iranians were close to nuclear weapons, then I for one would not complain about America and Israel taking them out.
I completely agree. They had no choice. If they had entered into negotiations in good faith with the Iranians to try and put some kind of framework in place to limit their nuclear capability, and then during those negotiations it became clear that they had no intention whatsoever of limiting their nuclear capability, then somebody had to be decisive. And I've noticed on the conversations that have happened over the last few minutes on your show, we're talking about a lack of decisiveness. It's simple. We either take out their ability to have a nuclear capability.
Yeah. As you quite rightly say, Colin, you and I.
The planet is finished.
Yeah. But you and I are on the same page. If it is true, and I have no reason to to believe it's not true. If it's true that the Americans discovered that Iran was close to developing a nuclear weapon, I mean, within weeks, it may not have been 2, but I know I did it within weeks, then surely they're right to strike. I mean, they just are. I agree with you, Colin. Very good call. Thank you very much. Colin in North Yorkshire. Let's go to Jason in Wiltshire. Hello, Jason.
Good afternoon, Kev. Thanks for taking the call so promptly and quickly this afternoon.
No, any time. For you, any time, Jason.
Flattery gets you nowhere, my old son. Flattery gets you nowhere.
Yeah, I know that. Go on, anyway. What would you like to say?
Well, basically, it's just a sort of ongoing to this week of this pathetic, wet, weak leader we've got. This week, with what's gone on over in the Middle East, would have been quite a good test to sort of show what sort of leader he can be. If we go back in history with Lady Thatcher, I mean, back at the before the Falklands, she wasn't the most popular of people.
Yeah, well, what happened with her? I mean,
her actions, and what she done obviously turned the people and gave them confidence.
She was going to lose. She was going to lose the next election by a landslide. Yeah. Along came the Falklands War. She was dramatic. Yeah. She was decisive. Yeah. She was brilliant. Yeah. We won that war. She sent that huge task force across the Atlantic, and at the next election, she won it by a landslide. Keir Starmer might like to take note of that if he was a bit more decisive.
Exactly and he got.
Go on, Karen.
He's just lost obviously the election to the Green Party, the by-election. He's literally on the slippery path to nowhere. He's just continuing this own little world of his of I don't really know what he's doing. I can't work.
He's missed it. You're right, though, Jason. He's missed an opportunity. If he was really decisive, if he sent our planes in, if we got involved in this war, I'm not necessarily advocating that, but he would have found himself to be incredibly popular. That's what happens. Wartime leaders at the start of a war get a hell of a lot of support, which would be an alien concept to our hated Prime Minister. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Jason, I've got to move on, though, but very good point. Good call. Thank you. Jason in Wiltshire. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Colonel Richard Kemp, ex-British Army commander. I know he's going to have some very serious thoughts on what's going on in the Middle East and Britain's pathetic response. That next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest, ex-British Army Commander Colonel Richard Kemp. Richard, welcome to the show. If you bear with me, I'd like you to watch this clip, this segment from Keir Starmer's extraordinary address to the nation just a couple of hours ago. Watch this.
Our number one priority is protecting our people. And that's why, long before the US and Israeli action last weekend, we had already deployed additional military capabilities to the region to defend our interests. And I want to pay tribute to our brilliant armed forces. Throughout January and February, we were moving defensive assets to Cyprus and Qatar. Fighter jets, air defence missiles, advanced radar, and systems to take down drones, to ensure we were in a heightened state of readiness in advance of any conflict beginning. When the strikes began on Saturday, we immediately put those jets into the sky on a mission to protect our people and our allies in the region.
I think, Richard, this is what Donald Trump meant when he said this is no Churchill. But in that gobbledygook that he was just spewing about how brilliantly he'd prepared for the Middle Eastern conflict, which is clearly, it's not gaslighting, it's a lie. He said we deployed, protection to Cyprus. Now, we have 2 air bases in Cyprus, a lot of British military personnel, a lot of British citizens live on Cyprus, and we know the story this week. For the first part of the week, we were being defended by the French Navy. Then the French Navy took a break. In came Greek Navy frigates to protect Cyprus, to protect our military personnel, and currently our people are being protected by the Spanish Navy. How can that man stand there and tell us he's taken every possible precaution to prepare for this? He's not protecting the people of Cyprus. Other navies are. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, the Royal Navy withdrew its final presence from basically from the Middle East a few months ago. And now we have nothing there. And even though there was plenty of time, there was plenty of warning of what was going to happen. I knew what was going to happen. I'm sure you knew what was going to happen, not from intelligence, but from just monitoring what's going on in the world. There's plenty of time to deploy naval assets into the region again in this situation, which is pretty critical. It's not just, yes, he's had combat aircraft there to help in the defense of allies in the region, but the Navy is critical as well, and we have 2 immense aircraft carriers which carry a lot of firepower and capability, and they're sitting in harbour. And even at the height of the Houthi campaign, when they were attacking international shipping in the Red Sea, those aircraft carriers were nowhere to be seen. I think Starmer's biggest problem in all of this is the fact that an Islamic country is being attacked, an Islamic terrorist country is being attacked by both the US and Israel. And the US is bad enough from Starmer's perspective and Labour's perspective, but Israel, that's kind of beyond the pale. There's no way we could have joined in or even take any active role in a campaign that Israel is fighting in. That would be, in Labour's calculations, that would really undermine their support base, which is made up to a very large extent of a red-green alliance of anti-Israel voters and anti-Israel MPs in some cases. So I think that that lies beneath everything he's doing. In other words, he's putting party politics before national security.
Yeah, as Donald Trump said in an interview earlier this week for the Sun newspaper, he called the Sun, and he said that he felt that Starmer's foreign policy was being dictated by the Muslim vote here in Britain. I think it's quite clear that is true. He can't wait to keep stressing to Muslims, well, we're not involved in this conflict. Now, our allies in the Middle East, around the Mediterranean, who are under fire. Cyprus, Bahrain and the UAE, where Dubai is, they've all complained today saying we feel badly let down by Britain. What do you make of Starmer's being told, obviously, by his left-wing cabinet colleagues that he can't let Donald Trump use British air bases, British military facilities to launch strikes on Iran? That was an abrogation of the special relationship. We let down our closest, oldest ally and friend, America, and indeed our close old ally, Israel, didn't we? That was a bad move, wasn't it?
I think it was a despicable move, and Keir Starmer himself has said that the Iranian regime is a terror regime that threatens the world and threatens our allies in the Middle East as well as our own soldiers. He's also said that we cannot allow Iran to have a nuclear missile, a nuclear bomb. And it's one thing to say that, and it's yet another thing to sit on your hands and not only do nothing yourself, but obstruct your allies, your close allies, in what they're trying to do to bring about the objectives you said need to be achieved. I go back again to the point. This is party politics dominating well above national interest, and not just direct national security interests, but also much more wide than that. I think this has seen severe damage done to the special relationship, which was so important to Britain. That relationship gave Britain far greater significance and influence on the world stage than we would have without it. And secondly, of course, we have other enemies around the world, some of whom are active and some who will be active. And our passivity and our refusal to defend ourselves and defend our allies encourages them. Any remaining deterrence that Britain had against our potential and current enemies is basically gone. And it's not, and I'm not in any way criticizing the armed forces, which do a fantastic job and do what they're told by politicians. I'm really, my criticism is for the political leadership of this country, which is very, very poor at the moment.
And it looks to me, Richard, and you can tell me as a military man, but it looks to me that when our Prime Minister a couple of hours ago stood and told us, looked us in the face and said, we have been seriously preparing for this, he's just not telling the truth. Now, we've got HMS Dragon, which has been deployed to go to Cyprus and do the job of the British Navy to protect British citizens and our air bases, a job that's currently being done by foreign navies, humiliatingly and embarrassingly. That apparently won't even be ready to set sail until next week. So it's not going to get there for a fortnight. When he says, I can assure you we have been preparing for this since January, it just doesn't look to be true to me. What's your assessment?
Yeah, British sovereign territory in Cyprus was attacked by a drone. Yes, it didn't do a hell of a lot of damage, but nevertheless, a deliberate attack on British sovereign territory is something that we can't stand for and we shouldn't stand for. The last time British sovereign territory came under attack was in 1982 when the Falkland Islands was invaded. That was obviously a very different situation, but it was the last time it happened. And within 4 days, in other words, in the same time frame as the attack took place on sovereign territory in Cyprus, and now, within 4 days of the invasion of the Falklands, 40 British ships forming the core of the Royal Navy task force set sail from England to go and deal with the Argentinians. In 4 days, 40 ships. In 4 days, we haven't even been able to put one ship to sea. And that says a lot, both for political preparedness, and also for the state of our armed forces today, which have just been so badly degraded, we can't even put one ship to sea immediately.
Yeah, I mean, what's extraordinary about this missile attack, and I've been saying this, Richard, ever since it happened last weekend, I said, if we become a nation that allows an enemy to fire missiles at us and we do nothing about it, because that's what has played out in the Mediterranean in Cyprus. They fired 2 missiles, I believe it was Sunday, but it was at the weekend. One of them, I gather, hit a runway. The other one just missed the airbase. As you say, no serious damage, no one hurt. It's not the point. That is an enemy nation firing missiles at us. Do we not respond anymore? And what was our response? Extraordinary. The Defence Secretary, John Healey, went on to television on Sunday and said, oh, well, you see, what happened was, you see, no, Iran wasn't really firing at us. This is indicative of the fact they're just spraying out missiles all over the place and they're landing God knows where. He actually tried to maintain that the fact that 2 missiles, one of which hit our airbase on Cyprus, the other that just missed, that it was completely random. Again, this is lying.
It's very much akin. It is trying to basically duck down, keep your head down, do nothing, by pretending it was just an accident, really. Yeah. But it's very much akin to Keir Starmer's message and the other government ministers' messages, which have been churned out so frequently. You mentioned it earlier. Is the desperation to show we weren't involved. It's nothing to do with us. Almost saying, and we don't approve of it. But my understanding is that drone that hit RAF Akrotiri was fired by Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is, of course, a key Iranian proxy. So it was fired effectively by Iran remotely. And the natural response would be airstrikes against Hezbollah in Lebanon. We won't do that. And the reason we won't do that is quite simply because Israel is carrying out a concentrated air and ground campaign right now against Hezbollah in Lebanon, which has been firing missiles into Israel. And Keir Starmer will not, I can assure you, will not. He'd have to coordinate that with Israel if he's going to do it, because Israel controls the airspace. Will not carry out military action in coordination with Israel. Because, again, I come back to the point, his political support, which is very weak today, depends very heavily on a red-green alliance of Israel haters and Jew haters who would condemn him utterly if he was to take any even a minor part in an operation that Israel was involved in, even worse than the United States, which incidentally the red-green alliance also despises.
And Keir Starmer's line on this is, he's calling for de-escalation and negotiation. Given what's going on in the Middle East right now, and has been since last Saturday, really, last Friday, Saturday, so calling for de-escalation and negotiation, I said this yesterday, is like standing in front of a tsunami tidal wave and asking it politely to stop. I mean, this government has got to get real about what is going on and stop polishing its halo, old Red Ed Miliband going, we're pacifists. This is not good enough. I mean, as a citizen of this country, I'm feeling really seriously that this government is not protecting us and is not capable of doing so. I find this very frightening, Richard.
No, I agree with you entirely. And I think one thing that is something that people may not immediately think of, but we hear Keir Starmer parading around Europe and elsewhere talking about the coalition of the willing. In other words, we're going to deploy forces into Ukraine to help support the Ukrainians. That's never going to happen, and I never believed it would happen, and even more so now. Certainly, no country will believe it happened. Ukraine can't take any comfort from the fact that Britain can totally fail to defend its own national sovereign territory. In the hope that maybe we'll be doing something to help them against Russia. That's not going to happen. Of course, Putin is watching very carefully, as is President Xi. Britain has been in the past a key military player on the side of the West, the most important military player in Europe. And it looks very much as though we're no longer that, certainly not in terms of the political will that requires courage and requires when necessary, putting national interest above party politics first. It's actually, I think I would say this is the most embarrassing position that Britain has been in my lifetime. I can't remember any circumstances even remotely similar to this.
Yeah, well, I've been around more years than I'd like to admit, and I totally agree with you. I feel completely humiliated as a British citizen, the worst I can remember. Richard, great to have you on the show. Come on again soon. Colonel Richard Kemp there, ex-British commander. What do you think about what he was saying? How embarrassing is this? This Starmer guy, he's just completely screwed this up. He's not in control. He's being led, he's being ordered around by people like Red Ed Miliband, who shouldn't be anywhere near. Red Ed Miliband should be in a padded cell with a straitjacket right now. He's actually dictating this country's policies. Apparently at this National Security Council meeting last Friday, he was very petulant, very pacifist, ordering the Prime Minister around. The Prime Minister's doing what Red Ed says, and he's doing what his far-left backbench Labour MPs say. They're all obsessed with the Muslim vote, and they're all obsessed with signalling their virtue. They're pacifists. They don't like war. None of us like war. I don't like what's going on in the Middle East, but it's going on. There's no point in just going, I don't like it. Get real, do something about it. We are not being properly led here. We are being misgoverned to a catastrophic extent. It's extraordinary. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. After the break, talking of Cyprus, we're going to go over there. We're going to talk to Tom Cleaver. He's the chief reporter of the Cyprus Mail newspaper. We'll get the news from the ground over there. That next. Stay tuned.
The Green Party have won the Denton and Gorton by-election. Labour in third place.
Breaking news that Peter Mandelson has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt.
What would Andrew Loney tell them to do?
To come clean, be honest. And if Charles is complicit in this cover-up, which I believe he is, then I think he has to fall on his sword.
When you define sex, what your gender or sex, what you mean is biological sex, and that's a man or woman, what you are physically, not what you think you are on a Wednesday afternoon.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Mark sent me a message that sums up the way I'm feeling. He's talking about Starmer. He says, Jesus, Kev, the guy is making out he was ahead of the game like some genius of a general. How is he getting away with this nonsense? It angers me so much. That's Mark in Croydon. I hear you. I'm with you, Mark. Unbelievable. Let's go over to Nicosia, live to Nicosia on Cyprus Island, and talk to the chief reporter of the Cyprus Mail, Tom Cleaver. Welcome, Tom.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. What's the feeling of the people over there? Because the Prime Minister has just addressed the nation here and assured us that he's taken all possible steps to protect British citizens and the British air bases on your island. And as far as we can see, the people who have been protecting our citizens and our air bases are the French Navy, the Greek Navy, and now the Spanish Navy. Are you feeling protected by Keir Starmer?
People are bemused, I'll put it that way, at what happened on Monday morning. The bases in Cyprus have never been popular among the local population. And in the aftermath of Monday, the fact that they were left unprotected, and the rest of the island, therefore, was left unprotected, including, local villages nearby, has left people more bemused than they were before. And that's why the local government here enlisted the help of the French and the Greeks and the Spanish, and now I believe as well the Dutch and the Italian.
Gone for the quartet, have we? The Dutch now.
Yes, frigates have also been sent, are to be sent in our direction by those countries, because Cyprus felt exposed on Monday morning after the landing of the drone.
Yeah, and we've got this ship, HMS Dragon, still is heading in your direction allegedly, but it's still in port in Portsmouth and will be for at least another week before it even sets sails. Now, our allies in the Middle East and the Mediterranean, including Cyprus, we've had Bahrain, the UAE, and the government of Cyprus, obviously an ally of ours, have all expressed their disappointment. They say that Starmer and Britain have let them down. I mean, that presumably, that is the feeling of the Cypriot government. Presumably, the British citizens there feel pretty much the same.
Well, I haven't spoken to too many British citizens in the recent days. I know a lot of them are either involved in the bases or live out west of the island, and there was fear in Bafos, in the west of the island, regarding one of the objects which was sent in Cyprus's direction around lunchtime on Monday. The airport in Bafos was also evacuated briefly.
Yeah.
So people in general, no matter where they're from and how long they've been in Cyprus, do feel bemused, let's say it, what's happened in the last few days. And people have varying opinions on what's happened since and the sending of other countries' infrastructure towards the island. Some believe that now we are better protected. Some believe that it's putting a target on the island's back, effectively, given that the belief initially was that the existence of the British base put a target on the island's back, and a target which was left undefended.
I mean, that will obviously be the case. British military bases will be of interest, shall we say, to Iran, to our enemies. So I guess that is inevitable. But I mean, how long have you lived there, Tom?
I moved over when I was a teenager, so it's been about...
only about 6 months then, right?
Thanks. No, it's been about, I'm trying to think now, about 8 or 9 years that I've been in Cyprus now, yeah.
And to your knowledge, about how many British citizens live there?
There's a fair few. I put it in the 6 figures, definitely. There's a lot of people, particularly in coastal areas. As I say, Bafos is a big hub for British citizens. So yeah, it's a big place for British people. Obviously, since the UK left the European Union, the number of incomings has gone down, because now British citizens obviously require a visa and a residence permit to live here. But still, the numbers remain high.
Yeah. And how many are on the military bases, if you know that?
I do not know. There are permanent staff, and there are people who rotate in and out as well. So I don't know exactly how many, but it's a large...
Would it be thousands?
Quite possibly. It's 3% of the island's population is taken up by these base areas. That includes areas around the bases themselves in which Cypriots live. There are Cypriot villages within those base areas. As I said, one of them was evacuated, the village of Aphrodite itself, on Monday morning, and the schools in 5 villages around Aphrodite were also shut as a precaution. But yeah, I could be in the thousands.
Generally speaking on the island, I mean, people must be nervous because you are sort of almost in the thick of it as this massive Middle Eastern all-out war erupts. Nervous times for you, I assume?
There is a bit of fear going around. Obviously, Monday morning didn't help at all. You know, people waking up to a drone having hit the island. And obviously there have been various alerts since then. There was the most recent one was earlier this afternoon, I think about 4:30. It ended up being nothing, but an alert was sent around, and whenever an alert is sent around, fears obviously heighten. And like you say, given the location in which we find ourselves, it does create fear. Even last year when there was the 12-day conflict, you could see the missiles from Cyprus.
Yeah, right. I'll tell you one thing, Tom. The good news from your point of view is that you got your front page sorted out. So, you know, good story for you. Tom, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Tom Cleaver, chief reporter of the Cyprus Mail, live in Nicosia on that island right now. When we come back, Robert Bates, migrant specialist, will join us. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, living the news, we were going to be joined right now by our excellent international editor, Isabelle Oakshot, who's obviously based in Dubai. Dubai's been under fire from Iran, and Isabelle can't join us now because she suddenly had to dive down into the underground car park beneath the apartment block that she lives in. for our own safety. So it's still going on in Dubai. We'll hope to get on the show later on, and of course we hope that she and all the other people in Dubai and the United Arab Emirates are okay. Stepping into the breach, though, is the Research Director for the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. Rob, thanks for coming on earlier than planned. Listen, we'll talk about Shabana Mahmood's fabled migrant crisis crackdown in just a little while. She's very worried about ethno-nationalism apparently at the moment. Not at all that this government are just a bunch of sixth form ideologues, to perish the thought. Talking of which, this was our Prime Minister, Robert, earlier. He addressed the nation and assured us that, contrary to what we suspected, that this government, this country, has been locked in intricate preparations for what's going on in the Middle East for months, watch this.
Our number one priority is protecting our people. And that's why, long before the US and Israeli action last weekend, we had already deployed additional military capabilities to the region to defend our interests. And I want to pay tribute to our brilliant armed forces. Throughout January and February, we were moving defensive assets to Cyprus and Qatar. Fighter jets, air defence missiles, advanced radar and systems to take down drones, to ensure we were in a heightened state of readiness in advance of any conflict beginning. When the strikes began on Saturday, we immediately put those jets into the sky on a mission to protect our people and our allies in the region.
Robert, he's acting like sort of, a general who has been preparing for this for months, talking about protecting our people, including the people who live, the British citizens who live on the island of Cyprus in the Mediterranean, where we have two air bases. Thousands of military personnel, British military personnel live there, and apparently the number of British citizens on Cyprus is into six figures. So a great many British citizens, including military personnel, live there. That man, Starmer, just said that he'd taken every step to protect them. Well, we know that since our airbase Akatari was attacked at the weekend, I think it was Monday morning, Sunday night, I think 2 missiles were fired, drones. One hit the runway, one just missed. Who was protecting us after that? Oh, I know. It was the French Navy. Then the French took a break. In came Greek Navy frigates to protect us. Right now, Spanish Navy, the Spanish Navy is protecting British citizens on Cyprus. And I've just spoken to the chief reporter of the Cyprus Mail newspaper, a British language newspaper, and he said they understand the Dutch are now on their way to protect the British on that island. In what way do you think Keir Starmer can claim to have taken all the appropriate steps to protect British citizens on the island of Cyprus?
Well, I think he can in his mind and in the very lax relationship that he seems to have with the truth. This whole situation has completely humiliated this man. He has looked out of his depth. He's not really known what's going on. He's clearly been cut out of the loop in conversations and has shown himself to be incredibly untrustworthy and really actually just out for his own party's interest and actually allowing domestic issues in Britain to be a key consideration rather than actually us being a strong, reliable ally of America. And I think, unfortunately, this makes our country look so weak. It makes us look so pathetic on the international stage. And this is really actually, I think, where we, unfortunately, always seem to end up with Labour governments who are more concerned now with domestic politics and their electoral coalition than actually doing what is the right thing and actually making effective decisions, because this really isn't his cup of tea. You know, if it was human rights conversation we'd be having, he'd be all over it and he'd be over the fine print and the detail. But when it actually comes to, you know, taking tough steps or getting involved in anything that involves military resources, he is completely woefully unaware, completely woefully unable to get to grips with the actual details. And this is the and we end up in this humiliating situation that we're seeing in Cyprus.
Yeah, and how can he claim to have fully prepared for this when he suddenly, in a panic, 2 days ago, said that he has now decided to deploy a British warship to the Mediterranean? Surely, given that voyage from Britain to the Mediterranean takes about a week on a warship, surely he should have done that in January. He should have done that weeks ago. Instead, he suddenly on Monday scrambles. Yeah, I've decided to send one, HMS Dragon. Well, HMS Dragon is still in dock in Portsmouth and apparently won't even be ready to set sail for at least a week. Next week it will be ready to go. Then it will take a week to get there. So when it finally arrives at Cyprus, if we're lucky, it'll be probably over a fortnight since he decided to send it there. How can he say he's been preparing? That is the opposite of preparation, isn't it?
It is bewildering, and I just don't know that the brass neck that this man seems to have, where he's so clearly just pulling deceits and trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the British and this is and allies, and this is an incredibly concerning thing because we're not dealing with big connections or potholes here. We're actually dealing with very, very important matters of international geopolitical significance. And instead, we've got a Prime Minister now that is blustering his way through a really, really significant event in history, in recent history. We are seeing it unfurl in front of us. And this is a Prime Minister who is more concerned with desperately trying to make himself look like a statesman and willfully putting out mistruths rather than actually address the situation as it is and try and come up with a plan moving forward from this point. And unfortunately, actually, it really just puts our country in such a poor position in terms of international prestige, in terms of what our allies think of us, in terms of how we just appear to potential individuals or groups that want to do us harm as well. And I think, unfortunately, this is just a man that is not fit for Prime Minister, and really the events of the last week or so have shown this to be definitive beyond doubt.
And nor is this government fit to govern this country. That speech he made a couple of hours ago, it was around about 2 o'clock, wasn't it? That speech he made looked to me, for all the world, like it had been hastily prepared by spin doctors to make it look as if this government has been preparing for this, when quite clearly it has not. We also learn that he's not really in control, terrifyingly. It looks like Ed Miliband is calling the shots. When all hell broke loose on Friday, there was a meeting of or was about to break loose. There was a meeting of the National Security Council, which is basically a bunch of cabinet ministers, and Ed Miliband, crazy Ed Miliband, led the charge, insisting that we do not cooperate with America, that we do not get involved, we do not let Donald Trump use our air bases to launch strikes on Iran. He was joined by these other sort of sixth forms, 1970s revolutionaries, Rachel Reeves, Yvette Cooper, Shabana Mahmood, hard as nails Shabana Mahmood. She was saying, don't cooperate with that evil man, Donald Trump. So this is a bunch of ideologues. Apparently, Miliband especially was banging the desk, petulant, talking about pacifism. We must not get involved in this awful war. This is not good enough, Robert, because nobody likes war. I'm not celebrating what's going on in the Middle East. Nobody is. It's horrible. But it is a reality. And to have a government who, as I say, are just a bunch of, kind of pound store Che Guevaras banging on about, peace and, negotiation and de-escalation. That is pointless. We have a government that seems to have detached itself from reality and along the way ruined the special relationship by really upsetting Donald Trump. It's extraordinary.
Well, I do think it is important to recognise the reason why. Well, I think there is very, very clear ideological underpinnings of these sixth form students masquerading as secretaries of state. And I think actually probably it's just this classic Trump derangement syndrome. As Trump's done it, it must be evil, and therefore we're averse to it. But I also think there are very, very real reflections here on where we are going as a country, especially in light of the Gorton and Denton by-election, where our foreign policy is increasingly being dictated by a Labour Party that is trying to pander to a particular part of the community and concerned about doing anything that might lose them votes, especially in those seats, as we saw up in Manchester. And I think as the surge of the Green Party, relative surge of the Green Party, continues to galvanise many on the left of the Labour Party and take them away, I think the Labour Party are actually going to increasingly become more pacifist and revert away from any of the sort of the pillars of our foreign policy, any of the pillars of actually what has been our national security for the last few decades, and instead actually going to increasingly adopt either neutral positions or positions that actually are really against the national interest because they are so concerned about losing these votes.
Yeah, and also I think that there are old school 1960s pacifists, all war must be avoided. It's like Jeremy Corbyn, every time he opens his mouth, negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. Well, yeah, we're all for that. But when negotiations break down and war starts, react accordingly. And we are not doing that. We understand, while Ed Miliband and the gang said, oh, this warmongering American fascist who's starting this war on the dreadful Israel. Well, we understand that they had reason to believe, and this may have emerged during these negotiations that have been going on for quite some time. J.D. Vance taking a large part in them between America and Iran. We understand that what emerged at one point was that Iran let slip that they may be, or that they were, just within weeks of developing a nuclear weapon. So that's why America and Israel appear to have struck. And can we really complain about that? That's a good idea, isn't it?
Well, it is a bit of that kind of case of weak men creating difficult times, and it taking the strong men to actually take those difficult decisions that actually are for the betterment of the world and the safety of the world. Unfortunately, we are governed by those weak men and women that are really, really averse to actually doing anything that is difficult. I don't think it's anything they ever thought they would have to be taking as decisions. I think actually when they wanted to get into politics, it was all peace and love and happy hippie mentality. And this is actually really the problem actually with many, many social democrat and parties of the left. They just aren't prepared to countenance anything that is difficult or uncomfortable, because it really isn't the reason why they got into politics. They want to be talking about rainbows and the need for a great investment and all that kind of stuff, but it's just not suited for a time of increasing international instability and the breakdown actually of that Cold War, post-Cold War international arena. And it's changing and shape-shifting at a rapid pace, and if we haven't got government in place that is able to recognise that actually international law means nothing. Sometimes might is right. And if we have got this intelligence that, Iran are very, very close to developing the ability to actually do awful, unspeakable things, and of course we should be taking them out without question. And actually the fact that they are even doubting that really shows that they are a completely unfit group of sixth formers.
They really are. They're singing Kumbaya while the world goes up in flames, and our Prime Minister seems to believe that his job is legal advisor to the nation. He needs to take some decisions. International law right now doesn't matter a jot, if it ever does, to be honest with you, but certainly not now. Get real, folks. It's a problem. Now, let's move on to your home ground, shall we, Robert? Let's talk about the migrant crisis, the hard as nails, tough as old boots, well, that's what they say about us, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, who, of course, not so long ago was, when she was a backbench MP, was over on the Greek islands handing out food parcels to illegal migrants pouring in from sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East, and wrote a big article about how important it is to help these poor people. So that's where her mindset is at in reality. But she's now acting kind of tough, won't, of course, leave the ECHR, so we'll never solve a damn thing. As we speak, by the way, hundreds of illegal migrants are coming across the channel unlawfully. Over 200 yesterday, and I'm hearing today we may be nearer to 300. So no deterrence, and still they come. But she continues to maintain she is imposing a crackdown on our migrant crisis that will finally sort it all out. Let's have a quick listen to her earlier.
There is ample space for a migration system that is fair, but where it needs to be, firm. There can be both compassion and control in a system that rewards contribution and those who play by the rules.
I've got a better idea. Just say to all these migrants, thousands of them right now, milling around or gathering on northern French beaches around Calais, just say to them, what happens when you get here is because you broke into our country illegally, you can't apply for asylum, we're going to immediately deport you. So if you come across in a small boat, you don't get in. If they get that message, they won't come, but of course our government won't send that message. Among her hardline measures to sort this migrant crisis out, we learned today, she is prepared to offer migrants' families as much as £40,000 to go back to their home countries. These are people who broke into our country illegally or broke the terms of their visas, applied for asylum, didn't get it, or even if they did get it, her plan is to offer them £40,000 to go back to their home countries. I've got a better idea. Why don't we just kick them out for free?
Well, exactly, and the way she's posited this 40,000, these 10,000 per individual payments somehow being essential is because apparently it costs too much to deport them. Well, there's an easy way to fix that, and to make it cheaper to deport individuals is to not give them the right to launch an endless number of reviews and human rights claims and relaunch asylum appeals and drag their feet to their removal. And then when they're actually in detention facilities waiting to be deported, don't put round-the-clock welfare and recreation activities on. And that will see a massive drop in the cost of that, and therefore it's a much bigger bargain. But 40,000 is a huge pull factor. And actually, what she's really said here as well to the whole wide world is, if you come with kids, and we're not really able to deport you because we don't feel comfortable about removing people with children, then we are going to give you huge funds. And this is the very message that she's sending out, transmitting as loud as possible, at the same time as trying to convince us that she's somehow moved away from being that kind of left-wing MP that is on beaches helping migrants and is now Genghis Khan, which is effectively the whole point of today's exercise was really to show herself as far tougher than the Green Party, but nowhere near as mean, as nasty as those on the right, and occupy some sort of middle ground. No, this isn't where the middle ground is. The middle ground is detaining and deporting all illegal migrants and not letting any international law get in the way of doing so, and certainly not sending them tens of thousands of pounds as a sort of date girl payment to get them to leave.
Also, all this will get voted down eventually by the left-wing Labour backbenchers who won't buy into any of this thing. And the last point is another part of a hardline crackdown. There was that kind of earth-shattering declaration that from now on, even those who have their asylum approved will be their situation will be reviewed. Their refugee status will be reviewed every 30 months. I bet that's a big talking point on the beaches of France at the moment. They won't even cross their minds. But she also said today, asylum seekers who break the law, foreign criminals, will be no longer allowed to stay at taxpayer-funded hotels. My question about that would be, how come they were ever allowed to stay in our taxpayer-funded asylum seeker hotels? Until now, we've just allowed criminals to stay at our expense. This is just a farce, isn't it, Robert?
Well, it is, and it has been sort of a peculiar point of the law, but I think actually even these plans here, they're just saying they're not going to provide them with the asylum support, and that's that'll be a discretionary thing as well. But the real question should be, well, why aren't they just simply being removed? Not only are they illegal migrants, but they're illegal migrants that have gone on to commit further crimes. So just removing that support, actually, and especially if they're involved in criminal activities, they're more likely than not just to simply go under into the black economy and continue operating in very, very untoward manners. So I think this actually, again, is another instance of a sort of pick it off the top shelf, dust it off, make it look tough, look at this, look at how fantastic we are. But actually, it could likely cause more problems. If the simple fact of the matter is, if you want to fix these problems, you have to deport foreign criminals and you have to deport illegal migrants. This doesn't actually do anything. This leaves us in a weird kind of halfway house where the problems could very well continue, and it isn't really anything that addresses pull factors either.
Yeah, I bet you the hundreds are coming across as we speak. They're all gathering on the beach. There's thousands of them of France. I bet the conversation is, anyone got any kids I can borrow? Because if we get across there, we'll end up getting 40,000 quid. Shabana Mahmood, yeah, she's slightly better than some of the others, but not much better. She's not going to solve this crisis because, in the end, she's a sort of lefty human rights type, and she's absolutely wedded to the European Convention on Human Rights. And if we don't leave that, we cannot solve this crisis. End of. Robert, brilliant to speak to you. Robert Bates there. He's the research director at the Centre for Migration Control. And Isabelle Oakshot, our international editor over there in Dubai, has now come out of the temporary air raid shelter, the underground car park of her apartment block. So we will be able to speak to her about the drama unfolding over there right after these messages. Stay tuned.
The Green Party have won the Denton and Gorton by-election. Labour in third place.
Breaking news that Peter Mandelson has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt.
What would Andrew Loney tell them to do?
To come clean, be honest. And if Charles is complicit in this cover-up, which I believe he is, then I think he has to fall on his sword.
When you define sex, or gender or sex, what you mean is biological sex, and that's a man or woman, what you are physically, not what you think you are on a Wednesday afternoon.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, she's out of the air raid shelter, so a warm welcome to the show. Thank God she's safe. Talk's international editor over there in Dubai, Isabelle Oakshot. Welcome, Isabelle. Well, tell us about the drama. What happened?
Well, good evening, Kev. All well here. We're actually just about to have supper. We're 4 hours ahead of the UK.
You're also
here.
just about to come onto this show.
And that as well. When the alert went off. Now, these alerts come to our mobile phones, very efficient, and they're quite shrill, so it's not something you can particularly miss. And it's actually only the second one that's come to our phones in this particular part of Dubai since this conflict started. Well, I should really call it a completely unprovoked attack on the UAE. Yes, it did come as just a bit of a moment again, but this time it's not the first time it's happened. We grabbed our bags, took some water and abandoned the supper and went down into the basement of our tower block. And it's actually getting pretty well organized now here, like everything else. It's beginning to get set up in the basement in case this happens again. So there's water and first aid supplies down there. They've set up seats, a lot more comfortable than when it happened out of the blue in the early hours of Sunday morning. And no one knows when you're in that situation how long you're going to be down there for. But actually, fortunately, we weren't down there too long, about 45 minutes. And then we got another alert to sort of say semi all clear. But it is very disappointing that Dubai and the UAE more widely continues to be under assault in this manner. From missiles and drones.
Sorry to interrupt, Isabelle. Was just now when you had to go down to the basement? Was there an actual drone attack, or was it a false alarm?
I highly doubt it was a false alarm. We'll find out, I'm sure, in a matter of minutes, because the media ministry here and the defence ministry are quite good about putting out information about what they've just intercepted. So in due course, we will know. I very much doubt that there was there was any kind of strike, because their defence system here is proving very, very effective. But of course, no one can be complacent about these things. But so far, they've intercepted 95% of what's incoming. But earlier today, it had been a lot quieter. And I think a lot of residents were beginning to hope that perhaps there was some kind of back channel conversations going on that might mean there was a bit of a let up in this very unprovoked and unreasonable, in fact, outrageous attack on Dubai. But tonight's event suggests that is not quite at that stage yet, unfortunately.
Meanwhile, the UAE, so the UAE is doing evidently a good job of defending looking after, protecting all of you there. But the UAE has joined Bahrain and Cyprus today, 3 of Britain's allies, to express their deep disappointment in Britain's response to this conflict. Insofar as you probably know that Cyprus, since the weekend, when we think there were 2 missile attacks, a drone attack on the British military airbase there in Cyprus, that since then we didn't respond at all. So we've become a nation that allows an enemy to attack us, and we do nothing. That's good, isn't it? And since then we have been protected by the French Navy, and then the Greek Navy, and then the Spanish Navy. And I've just spoken to a reporter on the island of Cyprus who said they believe the Dutch Navy are now sailing in to protect British citizens and British military personnel on Cyprus. Now, bear with me, have a look at this. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but incredibly, it was about 3 hours ago, our dear leader, the supreme leader of Britain, Keir Starmer, addressed the nation and assured us...
Number one priority is protecting our people. And that's why, long before the US and Israeli action last weekend, we had already deployed additional military capabilities to the region to defend our interests. And I want to pay tribute to our brilliant armed forces. Throughout January and February, we were moving defensive assets to Cyprus and Qatar. Fighter jets, air defence missiles, advanced radar, and systems to take down drones, to ensure we were in a heightened state of readiness in advance of any conflict beginning. When the strikes began on Saturday, we immediately put those jets into the sky on a mission to protect our people and our allies in the region.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, I said earlier, Isabelle, that's not gaslighting, that's just lying. He said, we've taken steps to put protective assets onto Cyprus. As I said, we have been protected. British citizens, there are apparently more than 6 figures, more than 100,000 Brits live on Cyprus, thousands of them military personnel. They've been protected successively since the weekend by the navies of France, Greece, Spain and now the Netherlands. Meanwhile, we have HMS Dragon, which our Prime Minister very tardily deployed to Cyprus. It's still in harbour, it's still in dock in Portsmouth. Apparently yesterday the funnel was covered in scaffolding and it's not expected to leave for at least a week, therefore it won't actually arrive for a fortnight. And that guy is standing there telling us that he has made, or that this nation has been fully prepared for this conflict. I reckon, if you look at that entire speech, I think that is the work of spin doctors who have perceived, who have realised the horror of Britain's humiliation and the fury of the people that we weren't ready, and they've tried to construct a narrative that makes it look as if our general, our commander-in-chief, Keir Starmer, has been preparing for this for weeks, if not months. It's just a lie.
I mean, I listened to the entire press conference that Keir Starmer gave in disbelief. You know, I thought, well, if you're an alien, you know, landing down in the UK for the first time with no knowledge whatsoever of anything that's happened to this moment, you might think that he was putting on quite a good performance of saying that Britain is ready for whatever's coming. But you only need a tiniest bit of knowledge about the whole wider situation to know that that was a whole stream of absolute nonsense, wasn't it? How can he say that we're fully prepared when the only naval ship that seems to be anywhere near able to be deployed is still stuck in Portsmouth? I mean, it is just completely astonishing. I don't think anyone was convinced by that. This guy is absolutely on the back foot here and fighting to sound as if he's in control of events when he's just basically being buffeted around. I mean, all it will take to complete our humiliation will be for the Italian Navy to turn up and do its bit.
It'll be next. It will be next. And we learned that last Friday, when it became apparent that the war was about to erupt, that America and Israel were about to strike Iran, there was a meeting of the National Security Council here, which involves obviously military people and also members of the cabinet. So Starmer is there, the world's most ineffective Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper. Where is she in all this? Don't hear a word from her. Also Shabana Mahmood and Rachel Reeves. Ed Miliband led the charge. He's the one who said we can't cooperate with Donald Trump. We mustn't let him use our air bases. We've got to be pacifists here. We don't believe in war, etc. and all that sort of 1960s student claptrap that these ideologues spew. And of course the Prime Minister was ordered to do what they said and did what they said. He's also of course being ordered around by his left-wing backbenchers who don't want anything to do with this war, and he's also being dictated to by his own obsession with the Muslim vote. Doesn't want to decry Iran too much because they're Muslims and he wants the Muslim vote here. A lot of our Muslim citizens actually rather support Iran. So what we have is a straw man leader who is obsessing on domestic politics, his own fortunes, his own welfare politically, when there is something very serious going on. He is not prepared and he is not in control, and it is frankly terrifying.
Absolutely. Just to update you, because you asked earlier whether anything did actually come in this direction, the authorities here put out a message an hour ago saying that UAE air defences had intercepted 6 ballistic missiles and 125 drones. Just, I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it? 6 ballistic missiles directed at the UAE at this point. The UAE is not an enemy of Iran, and in the last hour, we've also heard, I believe, I'm not sure if this is fully corroborated, that there is an oil refinery in Bahrain that has been hit. Now, you know, the bigger picture here, we can think about Keir Starmer and his premiership, but this is getting seriously, seriously hot in this region. You know, as the Iranian regime in its mad death throes lashes out at GCC countries, how long are they going to sit there and take this for? And at what point do they say, actually, we're going to have to do something back? You know, not necessarily on an offensive way, but just to protect our own people.
I mean, I think it's no exaggeration to say that the world is on a knife edge, and we have a government that just is not at the races.
I don't think you get to say we're not interested in this at this point.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. Exactly right.
The world is far too small. You know, it is far too small to say, actually, you know what, guys, we're just going to sit this one out. It doesn't work.
We won't be able to, Isabelle. Isabelle, great to talk to you. Glad you're safe, and do stay safe. We'll talk again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Isabelle Oakshot, right there in the thick of it in Dubai, our international editor, just revealing 6 ballistic missiles and possibly a massive oil refinery has been hit in Bahrain. So this is escalating. It's escalating badly. Let's go to break. We'll talk to political commentator Benedict Spence next about the Manchester students who are distraught. They're mourning the death of that great guy, Ayatollah Khamenei. Great, fantastic. Oh, pass the Kleenex. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to political commentator Benedict Spence. Welcome, Benedict.
Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. Just hearing that it's really escalating over there in the Middle East. Just talking to Isabelle Oakshot, who's in Dubai. She said that she's just literally got out of an air raid shelter, the underground car park of her apartment building, and they've just learned that 6 ballistic missiles have been fired at Dubai, and also that there's a possibility that a Bahrain oil refinery has been hit as well. But meanwhile, back here in Britain, while we deplore Iran for what it's doing, Manchester students, up to 100 of them, gathered on Wednesday for a memorial to Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. They think that this is a reason to be upset. The death of that old tyrant, responsible, murderous old tyrant who killed so many of his own citizens, and who was a scourge for the world. What is all this about? Why do people in this country still believe somehow or other that people like Khamenei, this old tyrant, are somehow or other spiritual and people that we should approve of?
Well, I think it would be easy to sort of say off the bat, and it's worth making the point that, students very often get caught up in very moralistic ideological movements when they're young and they have absolutely no experience of the world. I think we all understand that. Every single one of us who's ever been to university knows that you would end up rubbing shoulders with members of different groups, be it the Revolutionary Communist Party or the 43 different variations of communism that they all seem to splinter into, and that along with that comes also various other ideological movements, a lot to do with Islam, be it Shia, be it Sunni, be it Palestinian solidarity, or students for Palestine, or simple hatred of Israel. And that along with that comes a sort of very basic student level animosity towards the United States, Britain, and the concept of empire. So it would be easy, I think, to just sort of disregard it as that, because there will be an element of that involved. But there's something else here at play, and that is that increasingly a lot of students are becoming more radicalized, not simply because of naivety, but throughout the rest of their lives. It's, I think, something that's worth touching upon here. Once upon a time, this used to be the country where the elites of various different countries, including across the Middle East, would send their children to be educated both at school and at university. You go to Pakistan, for instance. Actually, most of the political class in Pakistan all speak with very clipped British accents because they all went to public school here and they went to Oxford and Cambridge. Increasingly, the elites of those countries are not sending their children to school or to university in the United Kingdom because it is no longer the recognized case of it simply being youthful idiocy. Increasingly, lots of students in the UK are becoming more and more radicalized, more permanently so, in a more radical direction. Lots of, it's an on-running joke in the Gulf. You don't send your daughters to the UK to go to university because they'll come back wearing a hijab or the burqa. Who would have thought that would be the way to do it? But that is genuinely the attitude that a lot of wealthy Emiratis actually take, which is, you send your children to the UK for that liberal sort of, Western upbringing, and they get something from the Middle East 30, 40 years ago. So there's a genuinely held belief here, actually, that for amongst a lot of students, that Ayatollah Khamenei, as you say, a man responsible for infinite amounts of death and destruction across the region, is some sort of hero.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, to be fair, some of these students belong to the Ahlul Bayt Islamic Society. So these are student-led groups that are affiliated with the Shia sect of Islam in Iran. So I suppose they're probably from that region. So they have kind of almost national reasons to be upset about the Ayatollah. But what you saw those, if anybody's watching on TV, we saw the gatherings. You can tell that there are a load of student hangers-on who obviously sort of feel that somehow or other to support the Ayatollah is to be left-wing and radical. One handwritten sign at this vigil read, "You can kill a man, but you can't kill an ideology." What ideology are they talking about? The slaughter of as many of your citizens as possible?
Yeah, it's tricky, that, isn't it? When you dive down into what the ideology is, it's, well, we don't really like Jewish people and we'd rather that they were dead. But they don't say it out loud, except, of course, when they're in that region, because they assume that none of us can speak Arabic or Persian. Honestly, though, it's... As you say, they sort of give the game away. A lot of this is also, I think, tied up in that sort of nationalism, which is in itself bound up with a Shia identity. And also, I suppose, in the West, it's still fashionable for young, trendy left-wing types, frankly, for older left-wing types who ought to know a lot better, to say, listen, man, Donald Trump's a fascist. He's the worst thing that's ever happened. And Bibi Netanyahu, he's even worse than a fascist. I don't know what he is. He's so far right. And therefore, anything opposed to those two men must be the good guy. Well, in that case, this means the Ayatollah, the man whose regime hangs people for just wanting to sing and go outside without their hair being covered, or being able to hold hands in public even if you're not married. That's the kind of person that we're dealing with. But for a certain kind of left-wing individual, this is always going to be the case. They will look at anything that the United States and Israel does in terms of their own foreign policy for security reasons, and they'll go, this is evil. Therefore, I'm on the side of the other guy.
If these people are the enemies of Britain, then we support them. As simple as that, like a knee-jerk reaction. Just before you go, Benedict, let me get your take. You will have watched, I'm sure, the Prime Minister's extraordinary address to the nation earlier, in which he insisted that he'd taken all the precautions, was fully prepared for this conflict in the Middle East, the war, and that he'd taken all the steps to protect British citizens there. And he actually mentioned that he'd sent defensive assets to Cyprus, where more than 100,000 British citizens live, including thousands of military personnel on our air bases. He hasn't done anything of the sort, because we've been protected by since the weekend by first the French Navy, then the Greek Navy, then the Spanish Navy, and we're hearing now, we spoke to a reporter on the island earlier this afternoon, now the Dutch Navy. Meanwhile, our one Navy warship that we want to send there is still in Portsmouth Harbour and apparently won't even be ready to set sail until next week. When he says that this government and that he, our Commander-in-Chief, has taken every precaution necessary, has fully prepared for this conflict. You know, to say he's gaslighting the nation, that's to do him too many favours. He's just lying, isn't he?
Yeah, they were completely unprepared for this, even though, let's be clear, they were given a big old heads up by the US sailing half of their assets to the region, which doesn't take, 2 seconds or so. You need weeks in order to prepare for that. So they did have plenty of advance notice that this would happen. It is embarrassing that Britain, which was the foremost naval power within living memory in the world, and which was relied upon heavily, it must be said, by the United States to be its partner in policing the world seas, has allowed itself to get to a position where it is now calling on the rest of Europe to do its job for it. That's disgraceful. We can't simply lay it at the feet of Labour. This has happened slowly over the course of successive governments. The Conservatives are just as culpable as anybody else. But you're right, actually. The Prime Minister has sort of stated his position after it's, of course, emerged that, he's been strong-armed by his cabinet into making decisions that he doesn't want. He doesn't come out of this looking strong or principled. He just comes out of it looking weak, dithering. And the reality of the situation is this, more than anything else, is what harms our credibility in the eyes of our allies. How can Cyprus, the United States, the Gulf states, and crucially here, I think, Ukraine, take us seriously as a partner if we can't even defend our own bases, if we can't even see the writing on the wall? Why would anybody trust us in that situation?
Exactly right, Benedict. Really good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Benedict Spencer, their political commentator. Next up, Mike Anstead from The Sun will be in to update us on all the sports. So that next. Stick around.
The Green Party have won the Denton and Gorton by-election. Labour in third place.
Breaking news that Peter Mandelson has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt.
What would Andrew Loney tell them to do?
To come clean, be honest. And if Charles is complicit in this cover-up, which I believe he is, then I think he has to fall on his sword.
When you define sex, or gender or sex, what you mean is biological sex, and that's a man or woman, what you are physically, not what you think you are on a Wednesday afternoon.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're going to talk about all the sport that's going to be in the Sun newspaper tomorrow, and the guy who's in the studio to discuss this is exactly the guy I didn't want to be in the studio. It's Mike Anstead. He's a West Ham fan, and last night he was at Fulham, my team, at Craven Cottage, and you bloody well won.
Do you want me to do a rendition of Bubbles now? Or,
no, thank you very much. No, thank you very much. But you're welcome, by the way. You needed that, didn't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look,
look at him. Look, he's like a Cheshire cat.
I'm not going to gloat too much because we are still in the drop zone. But nice segue into the top story run through, which is what's happening tonight, which is Tottenham Hotspur, the final Premier League game of this midweek batch of games. They are now really in the mix of it because of the West Ham win last night, which I promised I wouldn't mention again, but I just have. And Nottingham Forest getting a very surprise draw at Man City, which is a great result for them. So Spurs are now just 1 point above the drop zone. Admittedly, the goal difference probably makes it 2 points in reality. But we know, look, Igor Tudor is interim manager. Sort of are the players having him, only after a couple of weeks. We wait and see on that one. He's described the situation as emergency. And if they lose to Palace tonight,
Which they easily could.
Easily could. Palace, I know they're in a crisis themselves, but they would certainly smell blood there. But, if they lost tonight or even failed to win, they're definitely in the thick of it. And after that, they're going into games, Atletico Madrid, Liverpool, Atletico Madrid's second leg, and after that, they're playing Nottingham Forest. So, in a few weeks' time, we'll probably have an idea of whether they really are in a pickle.
Well, in a rare win for Fulham at the weekend, I was at Craven Cottage when we beat. It's not rare. We've done all right this season. We beat Spurs 2-1. It should have been about 5-1. They weren't too bad coming forward, but they got a terrible defence.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dave Kidd, who's our recently departed former chief sports writer, who's a big Fulham fan, I met him for a beer before the game, and he said that Tottenham were the worst team he's seen up at the Cottage in several years.
They were bad, and also they've got some good players, but they look demoralised.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's gone. And I think the thing is, you look at the squads on paper. Undeniably, Tottenham's squad is stronger than that of West Ham, that of Nottingham Forest, and that of Leeds. But once you get dragged into it, the malaise sets in, the confidence goes, start questioning each other, fans are on their back. The atmosphere will be big tonight. Are the fans going up there, let's get behind them, or is it doom and gloom and we're fearing the first goal?
Well, I spoke to a few Spurs fans on Sunday in the pub, and they feel that they are trapped in a doom loop, and there may be something in what they say.
Absolutely.
I don't like this idea of 6 teams featuring in the Championship playoffs next week. Next season. So traditionally, of course, 4. Very exciting. I've been to lots of the games. The final at Wembley for Fulham. That would be Aston Villa and then Brentford. So they're very exciting. But I think I can see why they bring 6 teams in, because you make more money, lots of good television. But it's a bit ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, if you're one of the teams that finishes in the group of 6, the bottom 4. Essentially will have one-legged playoff and then go into what would be then traditional semi-final 2-legged thing that then brings the top 2 teams in. So if you're in one of the bottom 4 spots, you'd be playing 4 more games if you go all the way to the final, which after a long old season in the champ, it's a big slog, it's a hard league. So look, more money, more excitement. I I suppose it gives you a bit more opportunity if you're in mid-table to kind of cling to. But it's
look. But the thing is, if you come 6th in the league, okay, that's not a bad season, but that should not give you a chance of getting promoted. I just don't think it's right in terms of football.
Well, this is obviously all the way down to 8th because the top 2 are going up promoted.
Sorry. That's ridiculous.
It's all the way to 8th. I mean, your 8th is not quite mid-table. You're not far off.
Yes, it's like half the league.
You could be in theory 8, 9, 10 points off the 7th place team. What's strange as well, the EFL have signed this off today, and it comes in, we must say, for next season. They're not bringing it in for this season. But they've not brought it in for League 1 and League 2. Which seems a bit odd. That's a bit inconsistent, really. So
less money, less telly. That's what that's
maybe, or maybe they're waiting. Is it a success? And let's bring it through. But it's slightly odd that they run the 3 leagues that have not kept it consistent.
We've got a couple of minutes before we get onto the cricket, which is an astonishing story. Any key games at the weekend?
FA Cup this weekend.
FA Cup, isn't it? Of course, I forgot.
Liverpool fans won't be pleased to know they're going back to Wolverhampton for the second time in what will be 4 days.
What about that?
Yeah, I mean that was a great win for Wolves on Tuesday. Liverpool again looking.
Rob Edwards they should have got him earlier.
He's done a great job after initially. I mean, look, they've really struggled first half of the season. They were stuck on single-figure points, but they're almost one of the form teams in the Prem. And it'll be interesting to see how he sold it to the players. Has he gone in there and gone, you're all playing for your futures to get you moving at the end of the season? Has he gone, we're going to go and win the championship next season, maybe via the playoffs if they're in the mix, but almost our championship campaign starts now. You're on audition, so he's definitely done something to rally them up because they're a completely different club.
Yeah, and Sean Custers and I were discussing this the other night. If you guys, if you want to get your wife interested in football, get them to watch a Wolverhampton game before that Luton, because Rob Edwards. All the ladies absolutely love him. He's best looking manager in the world.
He's a handsome chap. He's like our English Jose Mourinho. Perhaps not quite as talented, but certainly.
He's certainly a good looking guy. Right, quickly, the cricket, amazing.
We're out. It's not amazing for England.
Yeah, but T20, what a game.
Yeah, really good fun. So look, India put on a pretty impressive opening innings. I'm just getting the scoreboard in front of me to remind me. So that, they were 253 for 7. So decent time, but England gave it a pretty good go.
It's amazing.
And Bethels ended up scoring 105 off 48 balls, which is staggering.
Incredible.
But ultimately fell a bit short. Probably not a massive surprise. You're playing India, T20 experts in their own country.
It's a great game though, and we didn't disgrace ourselves. Well done. Mike answered there. We're coming back with Matthew Syed. Stay tuned.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're still with the war in the Middle East, of course. I'm very pleased to be joined in the studio by columnist for The Times and The Sunday Times, Matthew Syed. Welcome, Matthew.
Thanks.
I gather that you wisely avoided the Prime Minister's address to the nation earlier. As I keep saying, you know, you could accuse him of gaslighting, but it came across for all the world like just good old-fashioned lying. He pretended that this government has been preparing for months for this and has taken all the correct steps to protect British citizens in the region, particularly on the island of Cyprus, which is strange because we've been protected by 4 different navies this week, none of them British. Here is the Prime Minister in all his pomp.
Our number one priority is protecting our people. And that's why, long before the US and Israeli action last weekend, we had already deployed additional military capabilities to the region to defend our interests. And I want to pay tribute to our brilliant armed forces. Throughout January and February, we were moving defensive assets to Cyprus and Qatar. Fighter jets, air defence missiles, advanced radar, and systems to take down drones, to ensure we were in a heightened state of readiness in advance of any conflict beginning. When the strikes began on Saturday, we immediately put those jets into the sky on a mission to protect our people and our allies in the region.
Well, Matthew, I've spoken to military experts, including former British Army Commander Colonel Richard Kemp, and they say that it is quite clear, it is palpable, that there's been virtually no preparation. And when he talks about moving defensive assets to Cyprus in particular, as I just alluded to, ever since the war began last weekend, the people, the British citizens, more than 100,000, thousands of them work or are military personnel on our 2 air bases there. They have been protected by first the French Navy, then the Greek Navy, currently the Spanish Navy, and we understand now the Dutch Navy are on their way there. Meanwhile, we have HMS Dragon, now rechristened to HMS Dragon Its Feet, still stuck in Portsmouth Harbour, apparently won't even be ready to set sail until next week, so it'll be probably a fortnight before it gets there. This Prime Minister says that this government has been locked in intensive preparations. It's quite clear that's not true.
Yeah, I don't think he sounded even remotely convincing. But it seems to me, taking a step back, there are 2 fundamental issues with the British government position. The first one is, yes, we have defensive and military assets. They've been denuded, however, not just because of Labour, by the way, but years under the Conservatives, where the real terms cut in the defence budget between about 2010 and 2015 was 22%. The size of the army has collapsed, the regular services. And that's why when America asked us to permit the use of our bases for that early attack, it seems to me, given that we live under the American security umbrella preeminently, it was crazy to deny it. Whatever private concerns we had, and I have many concerns about the logic of this war, we had to get behind the country that effectively defends our security, because we are not in the position to do it effectively ourselves. And the second point, as you say, we haven't prepared what we do have to be able to defend. And think of this distinction that Starmer is trying to draw between defensive operations against Iran and offensive operations. I mean, tell me, do you have the faintest idea of the distinction between these 2 things? And the only way that I can work it out is that a defensive sortie against an Iranian target is one that takes out a missile system that's about to fire us, but it wouldn't necessarily go after, you know, an IRGC compound that didn't have missiles there. Let's accept that that is the logic. But that asymmetry is crazy. It means you're trying to hit these missiles as they're coming over with our assets, which is far more difficult than actually going to the source. And remember, they have hit British sovereign territory.
I know, this is extraordinary. The last time British sovereign territory was attacked in the Falkland Islands, Margaret Thatcher dispatched at great haste a massive task force of more than 40 ships and a massive aircraft carrier, the Ark Royal, to go all the way across the Atlantic and to fight that war. Starmer seems to have turned us into a nation that is prepared to accept an enemy firing missiles at us or dropping drones or whatever the hell it was and not do anything about it. Now, you alluded to the fact that the Prime Minister still isn't really letting America use our facilities to launch airstrikes, but he is in a limited way. But in fairness to him, apparently, when they had a National Security Council meeting last Friday, ahead of what happened on Saturday, the big strike, when they knew clearly something was about to happen, in fairness to him, Starmer apparently did say, I think we need to stand shoulder to shoulder with our ally America and indeed Israel as well. But he was shouted down by Red Ed Miliband, Shabana Mahmood, Rachel Reeves, the amazingly silent and ineffectual Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper. Where is she in all this? They all said, no, we're pacifists. Apparently Ed Miliband was banging his fist on the desk saying, we're pacifists, we do not approve of this war and we must not ally ourselves to this evil man, Donald Trump. They got Trump derangement syndrome, so I think he had to change his course.
But I think my sense is the concern was international law. But again, in a moment of massive global significance, you expect the Prime Minister to be able to articulate precisely what the British government is doing. I'm a full-time journalist. I find it extremely difficult to understand while firing on a missile base that is attacking British sovereign territory is a violation of international law, because we're not permitting America to do that. But it's okay within international law to pick off the missiles as they travel through the air towards these targets. However, you mentioned Trump derangement syndrome. I think one can have profound caveats about this war without suffering from any kind of syndrome
I agree,
at all.
yeah, totally.
It's very easy. I mean, it's easy to start a war, extremely difficult to control the unintended consequences. There's no doubt in my mind this is an evil regime in Tehran that has funded, I mean, so many things that one can say about this terrible millenarian death cult. However, will the West be safer if it descends into civil war? Do we have any idea how the different ethnic groups are going to avoid going into full-out conflict with each other? I have severe reservations about the idea, not yet completely verified, that they are arming Kurds in Iraq to cross the border. That, I think, could go terribly, severely wrong. You know, looking after the national interest in this country is partly about securing the Western alliance. And I think it's just worth saying on Trump, he really demeaned British armed forces who did join the American operation in Afghanistan.
That was outrageous.
For me, that was a complete disgrace. He demeans, abuses and mocks people in different countries, and then he expects us to join his war. I said to you, we should join. We're not, we have to recognise our vulnerability. But I do have doubts both about Trump as a president and about this operation.
Don't you feel, I mean, the word is, I mean, this is, you know, obviously coming out of Trump town, but that during these negotiations that have been going on for some time, conducted by J.D. Vance and, of course, the Iranians, to try to work out a kind of nuclear confinement deal, that it's the Iranians let slip that they may be within a few weeks, just a few weeks, of developing a nuclear weapon. And that could be the reason why both America and Israel decided to strike. If that is the case, then I think, you know, all of us would say, well, that had to be done. So who knows what the truth is? But don't you think that Keir Starmer, you talked about, of course, that was his other reason for not wanting to let America use our facility. International law, his obsession with international law. Don't you think that this Prime Minister has got to get it through his head that he's the leader of this country? He seems to see his role as legal advisor to the nation. That isn't good enough, is it?
No, there are times where, I mean, I don't know if you feel this, but I think international law is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's been of benefit to the world in the post-war era.
Yeah, no, it has its use.
Do you not think? I mean, look,
absolutely.
Think of global free trade.
Of course,
where these ships are travelling across all these different oceans and international waters. It permits the computer you're using, the chips in the different things. Having some sense of order and norms and laws, I think, has been of tremendous benefit to the whole world, particularly the Western world. The economic growth has been extremely fast. But there have to be occasions when the national interest trumps it. Forgive the pun, when national law is... Because you can't get a UN Security Council resolution. I mean, it's split in the Security Council. The world is moving from...
The Security Council that's got the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians in it.
Well, the Iranians aren't in it, but the Chinese and the Russians are, and you're not going to get unanimity.
Yeah. All right, you've got Iranian sympathisers.
Well, I mean, that's one thing that's very interesting about this, is the most important geopolitical conflict in the world today, in my view, is happening in Ukraine. Trump talks about overwhelming American military power. I agree with that. But he's no longer providing it. Europe's having to pay for it.
Yeah.
He's also cut off key intelligence sharing at vital moments during that war. I would love to see America to get more involved in that, in the sense that I think this is a winnable war. And just taking an even bigger step back, you mentioned that Iran has been working in a more or less cohesive axis with China, Russia and North Korea.
Yeah.
They've been providing intelligence, drones. North Koreans have provided soldiers to fight for Russia, and they've died in the Ukraine war. It's very interesting that Iran is not getting any military backing. Really, I mean, some capabilities, some assets, but not much more than that. And I do wonder now what President Xi Jinping is thinking. The really fundamental hotspot in the world today is Taiwan. It has a central position in the production of advanced semiconductors. It's that battle, Kevin, by the way.
Doesn't it produce something like 90% of the world's
right, it's got the key fabs where they make these incredibly sophisticated chips. And what's going to determine, in the end, which of the two groups, the autocratic group and the free Western alliance, which I think we back with all our hearts, is a battle over AI.
Yeah.
So this is a precarious situation for the world, and I do worry about overstretch in the Western alliance, munitions and all the rest that's going to be important if China do move to blockade Taiwan.
To go back to your point about international law, of course you're quite right, it does have its uses, and you need some kind of global order if we're all to get along. But there comes a point. So this Prime Minister, for him, it's Lord God Almighty. He worships at the altar of international, as does his Jiminy Cricket Attorney General Richard Hermer. They're both obsessed with it. Now, we are, and fine, if America attack Iran, it might be against international law. Take that standpoint by all means. But once it happens, as it has now, we have a massive conflict going on right now. It's really getting frightening. Just talking to Isabelle Oakshot in Dubai, 6 ballistic missiles have just hit Dubai from Iran. Once this is going on, to start talking about, we fear that America and Israel may have broken the rules, is redundant now.
But that's absolutely right from the British position. I agree. You're analysing what Britain should have done once the war had started, and I agree with you. That was my first answer. But it's worth perhaps thinking about this, at least a little. America has gone into Iran twice. It kidnapped... Brilliant operation, by the way. Another horrible dictator, Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. It's threatening Cuba. It has other potential aspirations. Remember that what really held the post-war rules-based order in place was the idea of the sanctity of borders. Most of the borders in the world, we find this difficult to understand because we're an island and our borders are not really that in dispute. But you go to anywhere...
Not very good either.
Right, but you go, and they're not good at controlling immigration. But you go to the Middle East, Kevin. You go to Africa, there are sometimes the same ethnic group lives across the border, and sometimes you have opposite ethnic groups on either side of the border. They're highly contested. And there's Pakistan and Afghanistan. Look at what's happening in Sudan, Eritrea and Ethiopia. Look at what might happen in the northern part of South America. To the extent that Trump keeps doing things that effectively make borders look completely... He's protected the American border, don't get me wrong, but to the extent that he makes international borders look completely tenuous, It could. I mean, I don't think this is impossible. Over the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to see a lot of people saying, "Well, if they're doing it, we're going to do it." If there's no real law, we think international law's a joke. These borders don't mean a thing. We're going to. It's happening, and this is going to affect us because there'll be refugee flows. You're right. Once this started, we needed to back the Americans. But we do need privately, and to a certain extent, ministers across the Western world saying, you know what? If we're going to go and do something like this, it's much better to try and build a bigger alliance than just two nations, America, because to the extent it feels unilateral, other countries will start doing it.
Overarchingly, Matthew, how precarious is this situation? A lot of military experts saying that they firmly believe we could be on the edge of World War III.
I think this is an absolutely hinge moment in world history. And as I say, there's war in Europe. There's war in the Middle East. China blockades Taiwan. There are, as it were, simultaneous wars unfolding in 3 theatres. That's a very similar pattern to the outset of World War II. And given the power we have, this is one thing we haven't discussed. Iran was trying to get a nuclear weapon. One reason it wanted it is it knows that North Korea is invulnerable to invasion because it has a nuclear weapon. Nuclear proliferation.
Pakistan,
right, and
get
India.
Yourself a nuclear weapon.
Ukraine.
Nobody will touch it.
What was its great mistake? It said to America, Russia and the UK, we will give up our nuclear weapons in return for a security guarantee. Now they are dying in their thousands because Russia has invaded them. I worry a lot about nuclear proliferation at this moment because think about it, when the world is as stretched as it, when there's chaos happening in so many places, it's very difficult to ensure that non-proliferation is sustained. So it's a big, big moment. Many unintended consequences could happen. And but in the end, I agree with you. I think the British government has acted in a way that has violated the national interest.
Violated the national interest and has just made us look sort of embarrassingly irrelevant. It's just this government. I don't think they're up to the job. Matthew, fascinating. Please come in again because I fear that this conflict is going to run and run. Matthew Syed, brilliant columnist for the Times and the Sunday Times. When's your next column, Matthew? Sunday Times, always a good read. Matthew Syed there. Thank you very much. We will come back. We'll take some calls. 03444991000. Do you fancy World War III? Let me know. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk.
The Green Party have won the Denton and Gorton by-election. Labour in third place.
Breaking news that Peter Mandelson has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt.
What would Andrew Loney tell them to do?
To come clean, be honest. And if Charles is complicit in this cover-up, which I believe he is, then I think he has to fall on his sword.
When you define sex, what your gender or sex, what you mean is biological sex, and that's a man or woman, what you are physically, not what you think you are on a Wednesday afternoon.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. War in the Middle East is definitely escalating alarmingly, folks. Bahrain's just announced that it has shot down as many as 70 Iranian missiles. We were talking to our very own Isabelle Oakshot, our international editor over there in Dubai. She has just learnt that 6 ballistic missiles have been fired at the United Arab Emirates, and we believe that an oil refinery in Bahrain may have been hit. So it's really escalating. Donald Trump has just given an interview to the New York Post newspaper. He has called Spain a loser, as you know. He also calls Keir Starmer a loser, and said that Starmer's failure to help America with the Iran operation is without question very disappointing. He said, we have a lot of winners, but Spain is a loser, and the UK has been very disappointing. He said Spain is very hostile to NATO and not a team player. We're not going to be a team player with Spain either. Asked about calling Starmer a loser, Trump was blunt. He said, well, he repeated what he said earlier. He said, well, he's not Winston Churchill, let me put it that way. It was very disappointing, talking about Britain's lack of response. It was very disappointing, his performance having to do with our tremendous attack on a hostile nation. He should be giving us, without question, or hesitation, things like bases where we can use others, which we haven't done. So Trump keeping up his assault on Keir Starmer's feeble response to what's happening in the Middle East. Let me know what you think. You know, whatever you think about America and Israel attacking Iran, and it could be that they had information, they had intelligence that Iran was pretty close to developing a nuclear weapon, which would have changed the game completely. But regardless of that, regardless of what you think about whether or not Trump should have attacked Iran, don't you think that this country, Britain, should have stood shoulder to shoulder with our old ally and friend America, and indeed our old ally and friend Israel, and just supported them? We didn't have to send troops in, we didn't have to give them weapons, just announce our support. Don't you think you should have done that? 03444991000. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Carl in Liverpool. Hello, Carl.
Hello, Kev. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. What would you like to say?
Yeah, just on Keir Starmer and the lack of backbone to get involved. I'm fully behind what Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu are doing. I think it's what needed to happen for a long time. Keir Starmer's obviously and not got involved, but you know, in that speech today, Kev, he goes on about, you know, for a couple of months we've been getting things. So how did he know to send stuff to Cyprus?
Well, they didn't send stuff to Cyprus, did they? I mean, I don't know what the hell he was rabbiting on about during that.
He just lied, Kev.
I think he, like I say, people say he's gaslighting us. He's not gaslighting us. He's lying to us.
Yeah, point blank, Kev, lying. And this is the problem. The thing is this war that's going on, it could stretch to here. You know, they aren't.
Yeah.
They're not bothered about who they attack.
So let me ask you a general question, Carl. How do you feel being governed by this Labour government? Because I think in this precarious position for the world, this is a key moment in world history. We could be right on the edge of World War III. Do you think we have the government that we need in these desperate straits?
Absolutely not, Kev. But the thing is, as well, even though we could be on the brink of World War III, this guy won't choose to go fully in because he's scared of the Muslim vote.
But here's the point. Yeah, of course he's being dictated to by his obsession with the Muslim vote, which in itself is frightening. But, you know, we can't sit here like he's trying to do, saying we are not involved. This is Great Britain. You can't just say it's nothing to do with us. Well, going forward, we could be easily dragged into this, as will many other nations. As I say, World War III is beckoning, and we've got a prime minister and a cabinet that are sticking their head in the sands like a bunch of ostriches.
We have, Kev, and this is the problem. The longer they wait to get involved, the weaker we look. This is the problem. The weaker we look in the eyes of Europe.
Yeah, we do look weak. It's humiliating and embarrassing, Carl.
But the majority of the British people don't think like this, moron, Kev. We don't think like this.
Yeah, we don't, but we don't have a say in it. The government is organising this, and this is no government for these terrifying times. It really isn't. Carl, great call. I've got to move on, mate, but always good to talk to you. Thanks again. Carl in Liverpool. Let's talk to Susie in Hertfordshire. Hello, Susie. What would you like to say?
Hi, Kev. How are you?
I'm all right. Kind of. These are worrying times, but right now I'm okay. What would you like to say, Susie?
Well, in 2017, the Ayatollah Khomeini erected a countdown clock for 2040 and for Israel's destruction.
Yeah.
We actually destroyed that square where it stood back in, I think it was April.
But that doesn't destroy the plan, does it?
Precisely. It was a genocidal plan. Every single Friday prayers, the man said, death to Israel, death to America, death to the Jews.
Yeah, that's right.
And even included death to the UK.
Yeah, because they call America the Great Satan, and they call Britain and Israel the what do they call it? The mini Satan, the little Satans. Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of fluff our current wet leaf in chief has got in his ears.
Yeah.
But it's a joke. It does answer a couple of questions.
Yeah, go on.
Why are the Navy not in the Channel stopping the migrants? Well, because at the moment we don't have any warships that are actually in working order.
Yeah, but we wouldn't do that anyway. And a lot of people have been, because the Navy have said they don't really want to get involved in that because they don't believe...
But we're being invaded.
They don't believe it's their job. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. As people have said, you know, the HMS Dragon still in Portsmouth Harbour and unable to set sail apparently until at least a week. So it won't arrive in Cyprus for about a fortnight. There's a lot of people joking that finally Keir Starmer has managed to stop at least one boat crossing the Channel, as in HMS Dragon.
Well, the other thing that I wanted to add is that when he stood up today and he said about protecting citizens, well, what about all the citizens in this country that he's not protecting?
Well, he doesn't protect anyone. He certainly doesn't protect...
He's not protecting our women and girls in this country.
I know.
So why should we believe him?
I don't believe him. I don't believe a word he says. Do you?
No, not at all.
He's got a track record for lying. I've never known a government like this. Politicians used to have a code of honour. It could be very excruciating, but they never actually directly told lies. They used to use circuitous language to dodge questions. We know what we're talking about. Now, This government, they just look us in the face and tell us a lie that's convenient to them. I don't think this government's been preparing at all for what's happening in the Middle East, and yet he said they have been intensively, and that they've sent defensive assets to Cyprus. Well, they haven't sent any warships, have they? Because our citizens there have been protected by the French Navy, the Greek Navy, the Spanish Navy, and now the Dutch Navy, but not the British Navy. Fantastic, isn't it? These are humiliating times, Susie. Susie, I've got to move on. Good call, though. Thank you very much. Call me again. Susie in Hertfordshire. Let's talk to Mandy in Northumberland. Hi, Mandy.
Hi, Kev. Lovely to speak to you. Great show.
Thank you.
As always, I love listening to you. I've listened all day, really.
Well, I mean, I don't blame you. It's terrifying, but it's gripping, isn't it? What's going on in the Middle East?
It is. It's really, and I had to put that wooden top man off when he did his speech this afternoon.
It's so annoying, isn't it? Just lying to us.
Yeah, he just grates on me.
Yeah, that's the way I feel.
And I'm really thankful that I didn't. I mean, I know that's only me as one person, that I didn't vote him in. I just wish. Why is he not being ousted?
Well, we can't, Mandy. Mandy, we can't. He's the democratically elected Prime Minister. This Labour lousy lot are our democratically elected government, and we can't get rid of them. It's that again, isn't it?
It is. He's embarrassing. The whole. I mean, I used to love being British, but honestly, the state of everything now, and that ship's still in Portsmouth, and he just.
I know. I think you would agree. I still love being British. I'm just embarrassed to be British at the moment. That's all.
Yes.
I know we'll all regain our national pride when we get rid of this abysmal. Frankly, fairly treacherous government. It's a joke. It's a joke. Mandy, I've got to move on. Good call, though. Thank you very much. Call me again. Mandy in Northumberland. Let's go to Neil in Teesside. Hello, Neil.
Hello. Just want to say thanks for being one of only two shows that actually tell the truth. So great show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before I get into what I want to say...
I tell the truth, or we tell the truth. That's more than our Prime Minister does, right?
Absolutely. I completely agree with everything you're saying. I just want to warn you about one thing.
Go on.
People are coming on and saying they want Starmer out now. Obviously, I want Starmer out, but it's not so much Starmer we want out, it's the Labour Party. We need to be very, very careful, because when you look at what will happen if Starmer's out after the May election.
We're aware of the dangers, Neil. We are heading definitely in this direction, because Starmer's gone in May, no doubt about it. He's going. Then our Prime Minister will be Angela Rayner.
Yeah, there's three. So in the city, they're saying this is what's getting said in the financial areas. They're saying that Rayner is game on to be the Prime Minister.
Yeah, and possibly even more frighteningly, crazy Ed Miliband will be the Chancellor.
And when we'll have nobody centre left, we will just have two far left lunatics running the country, and the backbenchers who are just they want locking up in an asylum. These backbenchers, they're only going to be putting them in on the back of them doing us at all. They're going to be more puppet master than that.
Well, they already are. So. They already are. And it's the tail wagging the dog that Keir Starmer is controlled by his far left backbenchers, because if he doesn't do what they say, they vote him down. It's as simple as that. So I'm afraid you're right. We're going to end up with this terrible government, maybe Prime Minister Rayner, Chancellor Miliband. The only sort of slight chink of light about that is they will be like Liz Truss on steroids. They'll last about 3 weeks before the country just completely falls apart at the seams, and that might make this government, this Labour government, collapse, and we will have the general election that we so desperately need. But these are terrifying times, Neil, and we do not have the government that is equipped to deal with these terrifying times, and that makes it even more frightening. So I don't have any good news for you, but Neil, thank you for an excellent call. Call me again. Neil in Teesside. Let's go to break, shall we? And when we come back, we'll find out what is in the pages of Britain's favourite newspaper, The Sun, tomorrow, with Deputy Head of News at that fine publication, Will Barker. Stick around for that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A couple of messages before we go over to Will Barker from The Sun. This is from Andy, talking about the lack of preparation that Britain engaged in before this eruption of war in the Middle East. This is Andy in Cornwall. Said, I may be wrong, but didn't Lord Carrington resign over his honour for failing to recognise the Argentinian threat before the Falklands War? Politicians of gravitas, not the bunch of students we have now. You're not wrong, Andy. Lord Carrington did indeed resign because he felt he had not done his job properly and had not warned the Prime Minister that there was trouble afoot in the Malvinas, or the Falklands as we call them. Here's another good message. This is from Tim. He said, hi Kev, listen to this folks, I'm an RAF veteran and what Starmer has said is a lie. No transport aircraft have left the UK big enough to carry everything he said. I've checked with serving mates. So he said, I've sent all these defensive assets, and Tim's RAF veterans checked with his serving friends, said this is just not possible. Did come across to me like a pack of lies that he assaulted us with earlier today, that guy Keir Starmer. Anyway, we'll take some calls again in a minute. We'll also go over to California to talk to Kinsey Scoffield about the latest events on Planet Harry and Meghan. But Will Barker, Deputy Head of News at The Sun, is in the studio. Welcome, Will. Too little too late, Donald Trump.
Well, yeah, it's Keir, really. Sir Keir stood up today at 2 o'clock, announced that he's going to be sending just 4 jets off to go and find the war, which has kind of now rattled Trump's cage again. He's been talking, saying that he needs to back the war effort without question, needs to sort of, it's harming the special relationship once again. He needed to count on Britain, so clearly things are not going great still between them.
So he spoke to your man in Washington, Harry Cole, didn't he, earlier in the week? Now he's spoken to, our sister newspaper, the New York Post. Yes, he's doubling down, saying Starmer's a loser, and that he's deeply disappointed in our reaction. So, I mean, we know what we're talking about there. Now, you've also gone into another story that we've been covering at some length, and that is this extraordinary fact that Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, says she's having a tough crackdown on the migrant crisis, but failed asylum seeker families, in other words, parents and kids, will be offered taxpayer-funded golden goodbyes worth up to £40,000 to leave Britain under a pilot scheme. Now, I know that the government's argument about this is, yes, that does seem to be annoying, but of course in the long run it will save this country money, because these people will cost us a fortune if they stay. But my feeling is, can't we get rid of them for free? And I think it's embarrassing, it's humiliating to give them that much money to.
But also, if you're there sitting in France and you think, well, if I just hop over the channel,
exactly,
I got 10 grand in the pocket. That's it hardly feels like a disincentive to these guys to come over here.
Exactly right. I mean, they break into our country illegally, many of them. If they didn't break in illegally, a lot of them have illegally overstayed their visas. So they break our laws and we go, oh, pretty please, would you mind leaving? Here's £40,000. Just embarrassing. Right, let's get to a serious Sun story. I noted this one earlier. Oops, she did it again. It's like the 1990s, folks. Britney Spears has been arrested, we think, for DUI, driving under the influence in LA.
I mean, there might be a war on, but as soon as this broke this afternoon, there was a huge hive of activity, and we've got Scarlett out in LA trying to track down Scarlett Howes, our reporter, US editor, out there trying to track down what exactly happened last night about 9:30 in LA. Police were reporting that she was swerving around the highway in her black BMW, and when she was flagged down, she burst into tears as she was arrested.
It's always crying, isn't it? Yes. She was driving a BMW convertible, was pulled over by troopers, presumably on the probably the Ventura Highway. I've been pulled over myself on that road for allegedly drink driving, but of course it wasn't true.
Well, maybe Britney might get off it, but as you probably know from Britney's past, she's having a little bit of a troubled time at the moment. She keeps popping up on Instagram.
She's had a troubled time for most of her life.
Yeah, exactly. And so she seems to be going back to the bad old days. The manager's come out and very shocked and is apologising on her behalf. It feels like she's probably going to go off to rehab.
So
it would be the usual sort of...
the usual stuff. So he was booked by Ventura County Sheriff's Office at 3 a.m, was clearly kept in custody, released at 6 a.m, but was reportedly an emotional wreck during the booking process and was seen visibly crying a lot. Whoops, she did it again. Sounds like an excellent edition of The Sun. I shall be buying it, particularly for the Britney Spears story. No, but I mean, this is the time to buy your papers, folks, particularly The Sun, because it's all going on. So thank you very much, Will Barker, Deputy Head of News. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to go over, funnily enough, to California. We're going to talk to our royal guru, Kinsey Scoffield, there about the latest goings-on Planet Royal. That next. Stay tuned.
The Green Party have won the Denton and Gorton by-election. Labour in third place.
Breaking news that Peter Mandelson has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt.
What would Andrew Loney tell them to do?
To come clean, be honest. And if Charles is complicit in this cover-up, which I believe he is, then I think he has to fall on his sword.
When you define sex, or gender or sex, what you mean is biological sex, and that's a man or woman, what you are physically, not what you think you are on a Wednesday afternoon.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A couple of messages before we go over to Kinsey. This is from Ali, making an interesting point. When do you think Argentina will invade the Falklands, as they are now fully aware that we have no chance of retaking them like we did in 1982? That is a frightening point. Pete the Mole, good idea. He said, why don't you do a new daily feature, the Labour scandal of the day, or the lie of the day, because Labour are a bunch of liars, especially the liar-in-chief. Yes, he lied today. Old Starmer, there's no doubt about it. Let's go over to America to talk to the host of Kinsey Scoffield Unfiltered, Kinsey Scoffield. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kev.
Now, let me ask you this. Well, look, I was going through Instagram yesterday. You know, I love to flick through my social media, and there was a big post from Meghan, from As Ever, you know, her weird online store where she sells mundane domestic products for astronomical prices. $64 for a candle, anyone? No, thanks. Anyway, there's the full range, and guess what? It was a special Ramadan offer. So, as I said, I guess that's how to make a fast buck out of fasting. I mean, it's opportunistic, but kind of vulgar, don't you think, to cash in on a sacred religious festival? Buy my wares?
What do you expect from these people? I mean, it just reeks of Sarah Ferguson and her 3 a.m. Home shopping network hits, where she's trying to sell you a blender that you don't need as you're trying to keep your eyes open. I will say that there are new reports out of the U.S. that suggest that Harry and Meghan are incredibly nervous about the possibility of a tell-all memoir from Sarah Ferguson, because according to insiders, several publishers have approached Sarah with lucrative offers to write a new book about her life inside the royal family. And the concern for Harry and Meghan is that that memoir, or a memoir of that scale, would, of course, revisit some of the most controversial moments in royal history, including the fallout from Megxit. Yeah. Did you want to say something?
No. It's just that I was going to say, you know, we often splice you into my TV show, What Just Happened, and we recorded it this afternoon, and this was our kind of lead story.
Oh, really?
That Fergie, Sarah Ferguson, no longer, of course, the Duchess of York, she's had her title stripped from her, has been deluged with extremely big money offers to write her bombshell tell-all tome. And of course, she's been telling friends, oh, she would never stoop to that, but she will stoop to that. She's got no other source of income now. We know she's been desperately jet-setting around the world. She's gone from a £13,000 a night Zurich wellness retreat to a spa hotel, a VIP spa hotel in Ireland. She's been to the Middle East begging for money. She's got no economic options left. No one's giving her money anymore, but she's being offered a lot to write this book. She said she would never do that. She will do it, and that is very bad news for Meghan and Harry, because when Meghan first was going out with Harry back in 2016, and she came over to Britain, Fergie took her under her wing, and the word is Meghan confided all her secrets to Fergie. So those secrets, trust me, are coming soon to a book near you written by the treacherous Sarah Ferguson. It's going to happen, Kinsey, make no mistake.
Well, I mean, we've seen Sarah risk it all previously when she wrote when she wrote one of her other books. I mean, she lost Diana as a very close personal friend because she wrote about Diana giving her warts and borrowing some of Diana's shoes, and Diana's shoes giving her warts. I think that there's a bigger scandal, you know, that could potentially be brewing. I think personally that Meghan utilized the York women, I should say, Beatrice and Eugenie, to get closer to Prince Harry. And I think that that's an element of the story that Harry and Meghan leave out. You know, what they're ultimately scared of with a Fergie book is alternative versions of events coming out. Since Harry and Meghan have moved here, they've monetized their version of events, not necessarily the truth, but their truth through Spotify, Netflix, and Harry's book deal. And the royal family's refusal to engage with them has allowed those versions to go largely unchallenged. But Fergie has at least one daughter that has been especially close to Harry throughout the breakdown of the relationship. Eugenie not only went to the Super Bowl with him, we've seen her in Montecito with her husband having dinner with Harry and Meghan. Eugenie lived in Frogmore Cottage amongst their things, amongst Meghan's journals. Like, Eugenie lived there during the pandemic before they were instructed that they had to move out and move all of their things out of there. So I think that whether Meghan confided in Fergie or Eugenie confided in her mother, and we know that they're very, very close, Fergie has secrets, and her financial desperation takes her to dark places, cash for access. Yeah. So I do believe that the Sussexes could and should be worried about this new development.
Yeah, and of course the rest of the royal family as well, but I think principally Meghan is the one quaking in her shoes. And make no mistake, as the Epstein files have revealed, Fergie has no morality whatsoever. She will sell the Sussexes down the river as soon as look at them. She will not hesitate. She desperately needs money now. Her entire life has been based on massive debt, massive spending, massive borrowing, expecting others to fund a lifestyle she simply can't afford. And she's run out of rope. No one will give her any money now. And yet on the table is this massive offer from publishers. I mean, I gotta tell you, if she puts poison pen to paper, I'll read the book. So will millions others. She'll take that money.
We'll read the book live right here for you guys.
Yeah, we will. We'll do it like a kind of storybook for kids. But seriously, she'll take that money. So this is real. This is a serious threat.
I agree. And if it's true that Prince William is done with the York women, he is done trying to pander to Beatrice and Eugenie, and he was fired up over those Epstein reveals that they were spending time with him after his incarceration, then Fergie's got nothing to lose. Because the only reason she wouldn't go this direction is to protect the princesses, is to protect and ensure that they had a future within the royal fold. If those days are over, Fergie's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, and I think those days for Princess B, the current Princess B and the current Princess Eugenie, those days are over. I mean, we already know that the royal family, the king has let it be known he doesn't want to see them at Ascot. He doesn't want to see them associated with the family anymore. William and Kate have completely cut them off, and you brilliantly zoned in on that when we spoke, I believe, on Monday, when you said the moment when William and Kate had always been very friendly to them, despite their parents, because William hates Andrew, and so does Harry, by the way. But William said, listen, there's a lot of questions, B and Eugenie, about your finances. Where did you get your money? He said, I suggest the way we clear this is we send in ethical accountants to go into your finances so that we can make sure that all your money is above board. And guess what? B and Eugenie didn't like that idea. They resisted it, they rejected it, and you would have to deduce that the reason they did that is if people do go into their finances, we might not like what we find. At that point, William cut them off, the King has cut them off. I think they're going to lose their princess titles very soon.
I think that's something that they should be worried about, because one thing we were surprised about in October of 2025 was how quickly the King took action and yanked Andrews away. We were under the impression that it was going to take, some much more muscle Parliament, but apparently it can just happen at a snap of your fingers if things get really bad.
Right.
So
exactly
I think that should be something that they should be concerned about, but not as concerned as the Sussexes.
Yeah, the royal family are in the mood for title stripping, so it'll be the Princesses Bea and Eugenie next. Then, my guess, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry and Eugenie, Harry and Meghan, and also their kids. So yeah, it's all happening, Kinsey. Got to go though, but great to talk to you. Have a lovely weekend. We'll talk on Monday. Kinsey Scoffield there on all the royal latest. Peter Carwell's in the studio. Breaking news: Donald Trump has just replaced U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
Yeah, and that is our top story. That Kristi Noem is out. That'll teach her for shooting her dog. She's leaving the department, being replaced by Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, who's a Republican from Oklahoma. And this is the mass deportation agenda without its most prominent face. She, of course, was someone who criticised and said that Renee Good and her partner were domestic terrorists. So very, very interesting that that's happened. It's perhaps been coming for a little while.
Didn't Trump also? I felt that she was a bit over the top in Minneapolis. She was a bit too hawkish about getting the migrants out of the country. The